The silver car sat alone at the edge of the pit lane, and everyone who passed it laughed. Not because it looked ridiculous, it didn't, but because the man standing beside it had no crew, no sponsor logos, no team jacket, just a 6-year-old girl holding a stuffed rabbit and a toolbox that had seen better days. Adrian Wolf was about to race in the Harmon Grand Prix, one of the most brutal circuits in the world, and nobody, not one soul in that paddock, thought he'd make it past the first turn. They were wrong, but they didn't know that yet. If you want to see how a man with nothing becomes everything, stick with me until the end. And if you're watching this right now, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. Let's see how far this story travels. The Harmon Grand Prix wasn't just a race. It was a statement, a bloodline, a place where reputations were built on millions of dollars, decades of engineering, and the kind of arrogance only money could buy. The circuit itself was unforgiving, 12 miles of elevation changes, blind corners, and straightaways that separated the skilled from the suicidal. Most drivers spent years working their way up to it. Adrian Wolf had spent 18 months building a car in his garage. He stood now in the pit lane, hands in his pockets, watching the other teams unload their machines. Everything around him gleamed, carbon fiber, sponsor decals, pit crews in matching uniforms moving like surgical units. His car, by comparison, looked like something dragged out of a barn. It was silver, yes, painted by hand in his driveway. The engine was his own design, cobbled together from salvaged parts and late nights that blurred into early mornings. There were no logos, no backup, no plan B. Ellie sat on the toolbox beside him, swinging her legs. She wore a faded yellow jacket 2 sizes too big and held her rabbit, Mr. Flopsworth, in a death grip. She didn't understand what this place was, not really, but she understood her dad was here to do something important. "Daddy," she said, tugging his sleeve, "why are they staring?" Adrian glanced around. She was right. People were staring. Some pointed. A few laughed outright. "Because they don't know us yet," he said quietly. "Will they like us when they do?" He didn't answer that. He didn't know how to. A man in a red team jacket walked past, slowed, then stopped. He looked at the car, then at Adrian, then back at the car. His grin was wide and mean. "You serious?" the man said. Adrian met his eyes. "Yeah." "You got a death wish or just stupid?" "Neither." The man laughed, shook his head, and kept walking. Adrian didn't move, didn't blink. Ellie squeezed his hand. "It's okay, Daddy," she whispered. "Mr. Flopsworth thinks you're brave." Adrian crouched down beside her, brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You stay with Rosa in the viewing stand, all right? She'll take care of you." "But I want to watch you." "You will, from up there. It's safer." Ellie frowned but nodded. Rosa, a kind older woman who ran the snack stand, had agreed to keep an eye on her during the race. It wasn't ideal, but Adrian had no other options. He kissed Ellie's forehead, stood, and turned back to the car. That's when he heard the voice. "Wolf, right?" Adrian turned. A man in his late 40s, tall and broad-shouldered, stood a few feet away. He wore an expensive suit, sunglasses, and the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. Adrian recognized him instantly. Damon Rourke, reigning champion, 5-time winner of the Harmon Grand Prix. The man who owned this circuit like it was his living room. "That's right," Adrian said. Damon walked closer, hands in his pockets, casual. "Heard you built that yourself." "You heard right." Damon looked the car over, nodding slowly. "Impressive. Really. Takes guts to show up here with something like that." He paused. "Takes guts to think you've got a chance." Adrian didn't respond. Damon leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "You don't, by the way. Have a chance, just so we're clear." "We'll see." Damon's smile widened. "Yeah, we will." He straightened, gave a little salute, and walked off. Adrian watched him go, jaw tight. Ellie tugged his hand again. "I don't like him." "Yeah," Adrian muttered. "Me neither." Across the pit lane, standing near the edge of the media zone, Lena Hart adjusted her lanyard and tried not to look lost. She was 25, sharp-eyed, and completely out of her element. This was her first major race as a junior engineer for Kellerman Motors, a mid-tier team that treated her like a glorified intern. Her boss, Gerald, had sent her here to observe and learn, which really meant stay out of the way and don't embarrass us. She hated it. Hated the condescension, the way her ideas were dismissed before she finished speaking, the way every man in the garage assumed she was there to fetch coffee. But she was good, better than good. She'd graduated top of her class, published 2 papers on aerodynamic efficiency, and could spot a mechanical flaw faster than most senior engineers. None of that mattered here. Not yet. She scanned the pit lane, watching the teams prep their cars. Everything was so polished, so precise. Then her eyes landed on the silver car at the far end, and she stopped. It was different. Not bad, different. The lines were unconventional, the bodywork hand-shaped, the exhaust placement unusual. She tilted her head, studying it. There was something deliberate about the design, something that didn't fit the usual mold. She found herself walking toward it without thinking. As she got closer, she saw the man standing beside it. Tall, lean, maybe early 30s. His clothes were clean but worn, no team jacket, no entourage, just him and a little girl. Lena slowed. She shouldn't be here. She should go back to her team, stay quiet, do what she was told. But her curiosity was louder than her caution. She stopped a few feet away. "Excuse me." Adrian glanced up. "Yeah? Is this your car?" "It is." Lena looked it over again, stepping closer. "You built it yourself?" "Most of it." "Where'd you source the engine?" Adrian studied her for a moment, trying to figure out if this was another setup for mockery. But her tone was genuine, curious, not cruel. "Custom," he said. "Built it from scratch." Lena's eyes widened slightly. "Seriously?" "Seriously." She crouched down, examining the undercarriage. "You're using a split-flow exhaust system." "Yeah, that's risky. If the back pressure isn't balanced perfectly, you'll lose power on the straights." Adrian crouched beside her. "It's balanced." "You sure?" "I've tested it 300 times." Lena glanced at him, impressed despite herself. 300? Give or take. She stood, brushing off her hands. "You're Adrian Wolf, right? I saw your name on the roster." "That's me." "Lena Hart. I'm with Kellerman." Adrian nodded. "You here to tell me I'm crazy too?" "No." She paused. "I'm here because your car sounds different. I noticed it earlier during the sound check. The tone's lower, fuller. That's not normal for a build this size." Adrian's expression softened, just slightly. "You've got a good ear." "I've got a degree in mechanical engineering and too much time on my hands." She smiled, just a little. "What's your goal here?" "Finish." "Just finish?" "It's a start." Lena studied him for a long moment. Most drivers at this level talked about winning, about glory, about proving themselves to the world. Adrian Wolf didn't sound like any of them. "Well," she said, "if you need any help with the setup, I'm around." Adrian looked surprised. "You serious?" "Why not? My team doesn't listen to me anyway. Might as well make myself useful somewhere." Before Adrian could respond, a voice barked across the pit lane. "Hart, where the hell are you?" Lena winced. "That's my boss. I should go." "Thanks for the offer." She smiled again, this time wider. "Good luck out there, Mr. Wolf." "Adrian." "Adrian." She turned and jogged back toward her team. Adrian watched her go, then looked down at Ellie. "I like her," Ellie said. "Yeah," Adrian said quietly. "Me too." Mute. The rest of the day passed in a blur of scrutineering, technical inspections, and endless questions from race officials who couldn't believe Adrian had made it this far. His car passed every test. Barely. But it passed. By the time the sun started to set, the paddock had emptied out. Most teams had retreated to their luxury motorhomes, prepping for the next day's qualifying session. Adrian didn't have a motorhome. He had a tent, a sleeping bag, and a cooler full of sandwiches. Ellie was already asleep in the back seat of his truck, Mr. Flopsworth tucked under her chin. Adrian sat on the tailgate, staring at the silver car under the floodlights. It looked small compared to everything else. Fragile. He'd poured everything into it, his savings, his time, his sanity. If it failed tomorrow, he had nothing left. No backup plan, no safety net. He heard footsteps and looked up. Lena was walking toward him, hands in her jacket pockets. "You still here?" he asked. "Could ask you the same thing." She sat down beside him on the tailgate, leaving a respectful distance. For a while, neither of them spoke. "Can I ask you something?" Lena said finally. "Sure." Why are you doing this? Adrian didn't answer right away. He looked at the car, then at the truck where Ellie slept. A year ago, he said quietly. I lost my job. Engineer at a firm that went under. Lost the house 6 months later. My wife left before that, said she didn't sign up for this kind of life. Took everything but Ellie. He paused. I've been working odd jobs ever since, trying to keep us afloat. But Ellie, she keeps asking me when I'm going to do something big again. Something I'm proud of. He looked at Lena. I didn't have an answer, so I built one. Lena's chest tightened. That's a hell of an answer. It's the only one I've got. Does she know what this race means? Not really. She just knows Daddy's racing. That's enough for her. Lena nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think you've already done something big, just showing up here. That takes guts most people don't have. Adrian gave a faint smile. We'll see if guts are enough. Lena stood, brushing off her jeans. Get some sleep, Adrian. You're going to need it. You too. She started to walk away, then stopped and turned back. Hey, if you want, I can take a look at your telemetry tomorrow morning. Make sure everything's dialed in before qualifying. Adrian blinked. You'd do that? Why not? Like I said, my team doesn't listen to me anyway. I don't have much to pay you with. I'm not asking for pay. She smiled. Just don't crash. I'd like to see what that car can do. Adrian laughed, a real laugh, the first in months. Deal. Lena walked off into the night, and Adrian sat there for a long time, staring at the stars. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as alone as he thought. The next morning came fast. The paddock buzzed with activity, engines roaring, crews shouting, the smell of fuel and rubber thick in the air. Adrian arrived early, Ellie in tow, and found Lana already waiting by his car with a tablet in hand. Morning, she said. You're serious about this, Adrian said. Dead serious. Now pop the hood. Let's see what we're working with. For the next 2 hours, Lena ran diagnostics, checked pressures, adjusted fuel mapping. She didn't talk down to him, didn't question his methods. She treated him like an equal. It was the first time in months Adrian felt like someone actually saw him. You've got a solid build here, Lena said, scrolling through data on her tablet. But your downforce is a little inconsistent in the high-speed sections. If you can smooth out your racing line through turn 7, you'll gain at least half a second. Adrian nodded, taking notes. Anything else? Yeah, don't let them get in your head. Who? Everyone. She looked at him seriously. They're going to laugh, Adrian. They're going to doubt you. Hell, they already are. But the second you start believing them, you lose. So don't. Adrian held her gaze. Thanks, Lena. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you qualify. She handed him the tablet, gave him a quick nod, and headed back to her team. Adrian watched her go, something warm settling in his chest. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he had someone in his corner. Qualifying started at noon. The format was simple. 1 flying lap, fastest time wins, pole position. Adrian was scheduled dead last, which meant he'd have to watch every other driver set their time before he got a shot. He stood in the pit lane with Ellie, watching the times roll in on the big screen. Damon Rourke posted a 7:42.3. Blistering fast, a new track record. The crowd erupted. Damon stepped out of his car, arms raised, soaking in the applause like he'd already won. Adrian's stomach twisted. 7:42.3. That wasn't just fast. That was untouchable. Daddy? Ellie tugged his sleeve. Are you scared? Adrian crouched down, looked her in the eyes. A little. That's okay. Mr. Flopsworth says being scared means you're trying something hard. Adrian smiled. Mr. Flopsworth's pretty smart. I know, the loudspeaker crackled. Adrian Wolf, you're up. Adrian stood, kissed Ellie's forehead, and handed her off to Rosa. Then he climbed into the silver car, strapped in, and took a breath. The engine roared to life, deep, throaty, raw. The sound cut through the noise of the paddock, and for a moment people stopped and looked. Adrian pulled onto the track. The first sector was clean. He hit his marks, kept his line tight. Didn't push too hard. The second sector was rougher. Turn 7 caught him off guard, and he lost 1/10 of a second. But the third sector was where everything clicked. He felt the car come alive beneath him. The engine screamed, the tires gripped, and the world blurred into streaks of color. He took risks he'd never taken in testing, threading the car through gaps that didn't exist, trusting his instincts over his fear. When he crossed the line, his time flashed on the screen. 7:41.8, faster than Damon Rourke. The paddock went silent. Adrian sat in the car, hands still on the wheel, breathing hard. He couldn't hear the crowd. Couldn't hear anything except the pounding of his own heart. Then the cheers started. Scattered at first, then louder. He climbed out of the car, legs shaking, and saw Ellie jumping up and down in Rosa's arms, screaming his name. Lena stood at the edge of the pit lane, arms crossed, a huge grin on her face. Adrian walked toward her, still in shock. "Told you," she said. He laughed, breathless. "I think I owe you dinner. I'll settle for you not crashing tomorrow." Across the paddock, Damon Rourke stood in front of his team, jaw clenched, eyes locked on the silver car. He didn't say a word, but he didn't have to. Tut. That night, Adrian sat in his tent with Ellie asleep beside him. He stared at the stars through the open flap, replaying the lap in his mind. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. But tomorrow was the race, and pole position didn't mean victory. It just meant everyone would be watching when he tried. He thought about Lena, about her kindness, her belief in him. He thought about Ellie, about the way she'd screamed his name like he'd just won the whole damn thing. And for the first time in over a year, Adrian Wolfe let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, he could win. Not just the race, but something bigger, something that mattered. The morning after qualifying, Adrian woke to the sound of rain hammering against the tent. He sat up slowly, careful not to wake Ellie, and unzipped the flap. The paddock was a gray blur, water pooling in the low spots, crews scrambling to cover equipment. Rain. On race day. Adrian's stomach dropped. He tested the car in dry conditions only. Every calculation, every setup choice, every risk he'd taken, all of it was built for grip on a dry track. Rain changed everything. It equalized the field in some ways, sure, but it also made the car unpredictable. Dangerous. He pulled on his jacket and stepped outside. The silver car sat under a tarp, rainwater streaming off the edges. He walked over, lifted the cover, and ran his hand along the bodywork. It felt cold. Fragile. "Daddy?" He turned. Ellie stood in the tent opening, holding Mr. Flopsworth, her hair sticking up in all directions. "Hey, kiddo, you're up early." "It's loud," she said, rubbing her eyes. "Is it going to rain all day?" "Looks like it." "Does that mean you can't race?" "No. Just means it's going to be harder." Ellie walked over and hugged his leg. "You'll be okay. You're really good at hard things." Adrian crouched down and pulled her into a proper hug. "Thanks, Elle." "Can I have pancakes?" He laughed. "Yeah, let's find some pancakes." The paddock cafe was crowded and loud. Drivers and crew members hunched over coffee and breakfast plates, all talking about the rain. Adrian found a corner table and ordered Ellie a stack of pancakes with too much syrup. She attacked them with the focus of a surgeon. Adrian sipped his coffee, watching the rain streak down the windows. His mind was already racing through adjustments, tire pressure, suspension stiffness, throttle mapping. He'd have maybe an hour before the race to make changes. Maybe less. "Mind if I sit?" He looked up. Lena stood there, holding a tray with a sad-looking croissant and a cup of tea. "Go ahead," Adrian said. She sat down across from him, glanced at Ellie, and smiled. "Morning." Ellie waved, mouthful of pancake. Lena turned to Adrian. "You see the forecast?" "Yeah." "Rain's supposed to hold through the whole race, maybe get heavier." Adrian nodded. "I figured." "You tested in wet conditions?" "No." Lena's expression tightened. "Adrian, I know. I didn't have time, or money for wet tires." He set his coffee down. "I've got one set of intermediates and a prayer." Lena leaned back, studying him. "You're serious about this, even now." "What else am I going to do? Pull out?" "Some people would." "I'm not some people." Lena smiled faintly. "No, you're not." She pulled out her tablet, tapped a few things, then slid it across the table. "I ran some simulations last night. If the rain stays steady, you're going to lose grip in turn 3 and turn 9. Both off camber, both slick as hell in the wet. You'll need to brake earlier and carry less speed through the apex." Adrian studied the data, impressed. "You did this last night?" Couldn't sleep. Figured I'd make myself useful. She tapped the screen. Also, your rear suspension is too stiff for wet conditions. If you can soften it by about 15%, you'll get better weight transfer and more rear grip. I don't have the tools for that here. I do. She grinned. Perks of working for a real team. Adrian looked at her, something warm and unfamiliar settling in his chest. Why are you helping me? Lena shrugged. Because everyone else is rooting for you to fail. And I'm tired of watching the same guys win over and over because they've got the money and the connections. She leaned forward. You've got something they don't. You built that car with your own hands. You're here because you refuse to quit. That matters, Adrian. It matters to me. Adrian didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. Ellie tugged Lena's sleeve. Do you like pancakes? Lena laughed. I love pancakes. You should have some. Daddy says sharing makes you stronger. Does he now? Yep, he's really smart. Lena glanced at Adrian, eyebrows raised. Really smart, huh? Adrian rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. She's biased. She's right. Lena stood, grabbing her tray. Come on, let's get that suspension sorted before the rain gets worse. They worked fast. Lena brought tools from the Kellerman truck, wrenches, a torque gauge, a hydraulic jack, and together they adjusted the rear suspension, tweaked the tire pressures, and recalibrated the brake bias. Adrian watched her work, impressed by how quickly she moved, how precisely she handled every adjustment. You've done this before, he said. Couple 100 times. My team just never lets me do it when it counts. She tightened a bolt, then stepped back to check her work. There, that should help. Adrian tested the suspension by bouncing the rear of the car. Felt looser, more responsive. You're good at this. I know. She grinned. Took me long enough to believe it, though. What do you mean? Lena wiped her hands on a rag, leaning against the car. I've been with Kellerman for 2 years. Every time I suggest something, my boss shoots it down. Tells me I'm too green, too eager, too female. She laughed bitterly. Last month, I designed a new aero package that could have shaved 3/10 off our lap time. He didn't even look at it, just handed it off to some guy who'd been there 6 months and took credit when it worked. Adrian frowned. That's bullshit. Yeah, it is, she looked at him. But you listened. You didn't question me, didn't second-guess me. You just trusted that I knew what I was doing. She paused. That's rare. You gave me a reason to trust you. Most people need more than that. Then most people are idiots. Lena laughed, a real one this time. Yeah, they are. Ellie appeared from under the tarp, holding a wrench almost as big as her arm. I'm helping. You sure are, Lena said, crouching down. What's your job? I'm the wrench holder. That's a very important job. I know. Ellie beamed. Adrian watched them, something tight in his chest loosening just a little. For the first time in months, he didn't feel like he was carrying everything alone. 2 hours before the race, the rain was still coming down hard. Adrian stood in the pit lane, watching the other teams make their final preparations. Everyone looked tense. Rain races were unpredictable. Careers could be made or ended in a single corner. Damon Rourke's car sat 3 spots down, surrounded by a dozen crew members in matching red uniforms. Damon himself stood nearby, talking to a man in a suit. Adrian didn't recognize him, but the way they spoke, low, urgent, set off alarms in his head. Lena appeared beside him, following his gaze. That's Vincent Cross, Damon's team principal. What are they talking about? Nothing good, I'd bet. As if on cue, Vincent glanced their way. His eyes locked on Adrian for a moment, cold and appraising. Then he turned back to Damon and said something Adrian couldn't hear. Damon nodded, his expression unreadable. Lena frowned. I don't like that. Neither do I. You think they'd try something? Adrian shrugged. I think they don't like losing. And people who don't like losing do stupid things. Lena crossed her arms. Keep your eyes open. If anything feels off, pull into the pits. Don't try to be a hero. Noted. She gave him a look. I'm serious, Adrian. I know. He met her eyes. I'll be careful. She nodded, but the worry didn't leave her face. The driver's briefing was held in a cramped room near the race tower. Adrian sat in the back, trying to stay invisible. Most of the other drivers ignored him, but a few shot him glances. Some curious, some annoyed, some openly hostile. Damon sat at the front, arms crossed, looking bored. The race director went over the usual rules, flags, track limits, safety protocols. Then he addressed the rain. Conditions are marginal, he said. Visibility will be poor, standing water in sectors 2 and 3. If it gets worse, we'll deploy the safety car. If it gets dangerous, we'll red flag the race. He paused. This is the Harmon Grand Prix. You're all professionals. Drive like it. The room broke up. Adrian stood to leave, but Damon blocked his path. Wolf? Adrian stopped. Yeah? Damon smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Hell of a qualifying lap yesterday. Thanks. Lucky, though. Rain's gonna shake things up today. Level the playing field. Maybe. Damon stepped closer, lowering his voice. Word of advice, don't try to be a hero out there. This isn't some backyard track. One mistake in these conditions, and you're done. And I'd hate to see that little girl of yours lose her dad because he got in over his head. Adrian's jaw tightened. Thanks for the concern. Just looking out for you. Damon clapped him on the shoulder, then walked past. Adrian stood there, fists clenched, blood pounding in his ears. Lena appeared beside him. What did he say? Nothing worth repeating. Adrian, I'm fine. He exhaled slowly. Let's just get through this. He shook. 30 minutes before the race, Adrian was in the car, running through final checks. The rain was relentless now, drumming against the chassis, turning the track into a river. He could barely see the pit lane ahead of him. Lena appeared at the window, rainwater streaming down her jacket. She leaned in close. Listen to me, she said. You've got the skill. You've got the car. But out there, in this weather, it's not about being fast. It's about being smart. Don't chase anyone. Don't take risks you don't need to. Just bring it home in one piece. Adrian nodded. I will. Promise me. He looked at her, surprised by the intensity in her voice. I promise. She held his gaze for a moment, then stepped back. Good luck. He fired up the engine. The sound was muffled by the rain, but he could still feel it, deep, powerful, alive. He pulled his helmet on, tightened his gloves, and took a breath. Ellie's face flashed in his mind. Her smile. Her voice. You're really good at hard things. Adrian pulled onto the grid. The starting lights loomed ahead, red against the gray sky. Around him, 23 other cars sat in formation, engines rumbling, drivers waiting for the signal. Adrian's heart pounded. His hands were steady on the wheel. The first red light came on. Then the second, third, fourth, fifth. Adrian's world narrowed to a single point of focus. The lights went out, and the race began. The start was chaos. Cars lunged forward, tires spinning, spray exploding into the air. Adrian couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead. He kept his line, trusted his instincts, and somehow made it through turn 1 without contact. By turn 3, he'd gained 2 positions. The rain was worse than he'd expected. The track was a skating rink, the car sliding and twitching under him with every input. But Adrian didn't panic. He felt the car, read the grip, adjusted his line inch by inch. Lap 5. He passed another car on the inside of turn 7, a risky move that paid off. Lap 10. He was up to 8th place. Then, on lap 12, everything went wrong. He came into turn 9 too fast, just half a second too late on the brakes, and the rear end stepped out. The car spun, tires screaming, and for a moment Adrian thought he was going into the wall. But he caught it, barely. The car snapped back in line, and he kept going, heart hammering. In the pit lane, Lena watched the monitor, hands pressed to her mouth. Come on, she whispered. Come on, Adrian. Jumped. Lap 20. Adrian had clawed his way back to 6th place. The rain was easing slightly, but the track was still treacherous. Ahead of him, Damon Rourke held 2nd place, driving like a man possessed. Adrian pushed harder. Lap 25, 5th place. Lap 30, 4th. And then, on lap 35, he saw it. Damon's car twitched coming out of turn 6. Just a little. Just enough. Adrian's eyes narrowed. That wasn't driver error. That was mechanical. Something was wrong with Damon's car, and Damon knew it. Adrian could see it in the way he was driving, overcorrecting, compensating, fighting the machine. Whatever advantage Damon had, it was slipping away. Adrian closed the gap. Lap 40. He was right on Damon's tail. Lap 42. He made his move. He dove to the inside of turn 11, a corner no one passed on in the wet. It was suicide. Insane. But Adrian trusted his car, trusted himself. He squeezed through inches from the wall and pulled ahead. Damon tried to fight back, but his car wouldn't respond. Adrian pulled away, clear and clean. Third place. The crowd went insane. In the pit lane, Lena jumped, fists in the air, screaming. Ellie, watching from the stands with Rosa, stood on her seat, waving Mr. Flopsworth like a flag. Adrian didn't hear any of it. He was in the zone now, mind clear, body moving on instinct. Lap 50. Second place. Lap 55. He could see the leader, and with 10 laps to go, Adrian Wolf knew one thing for certain. He wasn't just here to finish, he was here to win. The leader was Marcus Venn, a veteran driver with 12 years of experience and a reputation for ice-cold precision. Adrian had watched footage of him before. Never flashy, never reckless, just brutally efficient. In the rain, that made him nearly unbeatable. But Adrian wasn't thinking about reputation. He was thinking about the gap. 2 seconds. Closable, but not easy. Not with 9 laps left in a track that felt like driving on glass. He pressed harder. Turn 4 came up fast. Adrian braked late, felt the rear slide, corrected without lifting. The car held. Barely. He gained 1/10 of a second. Turn 7. He took a tighter line than usual, clipping the apex so close he could feel the rumble strip through the chassis. Another 1/10. By lap 58, the gap was down to 1.3 seconds. Marcus noticed. Adrian could tell by the way his lines changed. Tighter, more defensive. He was protecting his lead, not extending it. That was a mistake. In the wet, defensive driving meant slower corners, and slower corners meant opportunity. Lap 60. The gap was under a second. Adrian could see Marcus's rear wing now, water spraying off it in sheets. His own visibility was almost zero, just a wall of mist and the faint glow of taillights ahead. But he didn't need to see. He could feel it. The rhythm of the track, the weight of the car, the exact moment to brake, to turn, to accelerate. Turn 11. The same corner where he'd passed Damon. Adrian went for it again. He dove inside, wheels inches from the painted line, no margin for error. Marcus saw him coming and tried to shut the door, but Adrian was already committed. The 2 cars went through the corner side by side, so close Adrian could see the reflection of his own headlights in Marcus's bodywork. They exited together. Neither gave an inch. The straight opened up ahead. Adrian pinned the throttle. The silver car surged forward, engine screaming. Marcus did the same, but his car was heavier, built for stability, not raw speed. Adrian pulled ahead by half a car length, then a full length. By the time they hit turn 1 of lap 61, Adrian was in the lead. The crowd in the stands erupted. People were on their feet, screaming, disbelief and excitement colliding in a wave of noise that Adrian couldn't hear but could somehow feel through the car itself. In the Kellerman pit, Lena grabbed the nearest engineer by the shoulders and shook him. "Did you see that? Did you see that?" The engineer, a guy named Phil who'd ignored her for 2 years, just stared at the monitor, mouth open. Ellie was jumping so high, Rosa had to hold on to her jacket to keep her from tumbling over the railing. But Adrian wasn't celebrating. Not yet. He had 8 laps to hold the lead, 8 laps to not make a single mistake. In the rain, against drivers who'd been doing this their whole lives. He focused on the road ahead and pushed everything else out of his mind. Lap 62 was clean. So was 63. On lap 64, Marcus tried to retake the position in turn 9, the off-camber corner Lena had warned Adrian about. He went deep on the brakes, trying to outposition Adrian on the exit, but Adrian anticipated it, held the inside line, and forced Marcus wide. Marcus had to back off or risk going off track. Adrian stayed in front. Lap 65. The rain picked up again, harder than before. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Adrian could barely see the track markers, let alone the racing line. He relied on memory, on instinct, on the feel of the tires gripping and slipping beneath him. He made it through. Lap 66. Marcus was still there, half a second back, waiting for Adrian to make a mistake. Adrian didn't give him one. Lap 67, 3 laps to go. Adrian's hands were cramping. His shoulders ached. His neck felt like it was being crushed by the G-forces in every corner. But he didn't ease up. Couldn't. Then, halfway through lap 68, the engine coughed. Just once. Just for a fraction of a second. But Adrian felt it like a punch to the gut. No, not now. He checked the gauges. Oil pressure was fine. Coolant temp was fine. Everything looked normal. The engine coughed again. Adrian's heart dropped. Something was wrong. Something he couldn't see, couldn't fix, couldn't control. He had 2 laps left, and if the engine gave out now, it was over. He eased off the throttle slightly, trying to baby it through the corners, but Marcus saw the hesitation and pounced. He closed the gap to 0.3 of a second by the end of the lap. 1 lap to go. Adrian's mind raced. If he kept nursing the engine, Marcus would pass him. If he pushed it, the engine might blow. Either way, he could lose. He thought about Ellie, about Lana, about everything he'd sacrificed to get here. And then he made a decision. He pushed. The engine screamed in protest, but it held. Adrian threw the car into turn 1, harder than he'd gone all race. The rear stepped out, and for a moment he was sideways, tires smoking, the wall rushing toward him. He caught it. The car snapped back in line, and he rocketed down the straight. Marcus tried to follow, but he didn't have Adrian's reflexes. He had to brake earlier, turn smoother. It cost him time. By turn 5, Adrian had pulled the gap back to 0.8 of a second. Turn 9. The engine coughed again, worse this time. Adrian felt the power drop, felt the car slow. Marcus was right there, inches from his rear bumper. Come on, just a little more. Turn 11. The final corner before the main straight. Adrian took it flat out, no lifting, trusting the car completely. The tires screamed. The suspension bottomed out, but he made it through. The checkered flag was ahead. 200 meters. 100. 50. Marcus lunged to the inside, desperate, throwing everything into one last attempt. But Adrian held his line, didn't flinch, didn't give an inch. They crossed the line together, and Adrian Wolf won by 0.04 seconds. Blam. For a moment, Adrian just sat there, hands still on the wheel, unable to process what had just happened. The radio crackled, but he didn't hear it. The crowd roared, but it sounded distant, muffled, unreal. He'd won. He'd actually won. Then the realization hit him like a freight train, and he screamed inside the helmet, raw and unfiltered, and full of every emotion he'd been holding back for the past year. He pulled into the pit lane, crew members from other teams staring as he rolled past. No one knew where he was supposed to go. He didn't have a pit crew waiting with champagne and cheers. He had a tent, a toolbox, and a 6-year-old daughter. He parked the car in an empty spot near the podium area, killed the engine, and just sat there, breathing hard. Someone knocked on the chassis. He looked up. Lena was standing there, soaked to the bone, grinning like an idiot. "You did it," she said, voice cracking. "You actually did it." Adrian pulled off his helmet, hair plastered to his forehead, and climbed out of the car. His legs almost gave out. Lena caught him by the arm. "Easy," she said. "You've been in there for 2 hours." "I won," Adrian said, like he still couldn't believe it. "Yeah, you did." "I won." "I know." He looked at her, and something passed between them, something unspoken, something that didn't need words. Then Ellie came sprinting through the crowd, Rosa struggling to keep up, and launched herself at Adrian's legs. "Daddy! Daddy, you won! You won!" Adrian scooped her up, holding her tight, and she buried her face in his neck. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. Adrian's throat tightened. He couldn't speak, so he just held her, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, he let himself cry. The podium ceremony was surreal. Adrian stood on the top step, flanked by Marcus Venn on his right, and a driver named Carlo Mendez on his left. The crowd below was massive, thousands of people cheering, cameras flashing, the noise almost overwhelming. They handed Adrian the trophy, a heavy crystal thing that felt too expensive to touch. He held it awkwardly, not sure what to do with it. The announcer's voice boomed over the loudspeakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, your winner of the Harmon Grand Prix, Adrian Wolf." The crowd went insane. Adrian looked down into the pit lane and saw Lena standing with Ellie on her shoulders. Ellie was waving Mr. Flopsworth like a victory flag, screaming his name. Adrian raised the trophy, and the cheers got louder. Then they sprayed the champagne. Adrian had never experienced this before, didn't know you were supposed to shake the bottle first. He just pointed it and got drenched immediately. Marcus and Carlo laughed, then sprayed him harder. Adrian didn't care. He was soaked, freezing, exhausted, and happier than he'd been in years. When the ceremony ended, he climbed down from the podium and was immediately swarmed by reporters. Microphones and cameras shoved into his face, questions coming from all directions. Adrian, how does it feel to win on your first try? Where did you come from? Who's backing you? What's next? Adrian tried to answer, but the noise was too much. He looked around, overwhelmed, and caught Lena's eye in the crowd. She mouthed, "You okay?" He nodded, even though he wasn't sure. One reporter pushed closer, a woman with sharp eyes and a recorder. Adrian, is it true you built the car yourself? Yeah. Why? Adrian hesitated. He thought about all the polished, media-trained answers he could give, but he was too tired for that. Because I didn't have a choice, he said. I lost everything. My job, my house, most of my savings. I had a kid to take care of and no idea how to show her that things could get better. So I built something, and I kept building until it worked. He paused. That's it. That's the whole story. The reporter blinked, clearly not expecting that level of honesty. And now? Now I'm going to go hug my daughter and figure out what the hell happens next. A few people laughed. The reporters kept shouting questions, but Adrian pushed through the crowd, found Lena and Ellie, and let them pull him away. They ended up back at Adrian's truck, away from the chaos. Ellie was running circles around the silver car, too wired to sit still. Lena leaned against the tailgate beside Adrian, both of them watching her. That was insane, Lena said. Yeah. How's the engine? Probably toast. I pushed it way harder than I should have. Was it worth it? Adrian looked at Ellie, then at the trophy sitting in the truck bed. Yeah, it was. Lena smiled. Good. They sat in silence for a while. The rain had finally stopped and the sky was starting to clear. People were packing up, crews loading equipment, the paddock slowly emptying out. What are you going to do now? Lena asked. Honestly, I have no idea. I didn't think past today. You'll get offers, sponsorships, team contracts. People are going to want you. Adrian shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe they'll forget about me next week. They won't. She looked at him. You just beat some of the best drivers in the world with a car you built in your garage. That's not something people forget. We'll see. Lena nudged him with her elbow. You're allowed to enjoy this, you know, just for a little while. Adrian exhaled slowly, then nodded. Yeah. Okay. Ellie ran up, out of breath. Daddy, can we keep the trophy forever? Yeah, kiddo, it's ours. Can I sleep with it? Absolutely not. Why? Because it's sharp and you'll stab yourself. Ellie considered this. What if I'm really careful? Still no. She pouted but didn't argue. Instead, she climbed up onto the tailgate between Adrian and Lena and leaned against her dad. I'm tired, she said. Me too. But it was the best day ever. Adrian wrapped an arm around her. Yeah, it really was. Lena watched them, something soft and aching in her chest. She'd spent 2 years working for a team that didn't respect her, surrounded by people who dismissed her ideas and treated her like she didn't belong. And now, sitting here with Adrian and Ellie, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt like she mattered. Hey, Adrian said, pulling her out of her thoughts. Thank you for everything. I couldn't have done this without you. Lena shook her head. You would have figured it out. Maybe. But it would have been a lot harder. He met her eyes. I mean it. Thank you. Lena felt her throat tighten. You're welcome. Ellie yawned. Are we going to get pizza now? Adrian laughed. Yeah, we're going to get pizza. Can Lena come? Adrian glanced at Lena. You hungry? Lena smiled. Starving. They found a small pizza place a few miles from the track, the kind with plastic chairs and grease-stained menus. It was perfect. Ellie demolished half a pepperoni pizza before falling asleep in the booth, head on the table, Mr. Flopsworth tucked under her arm. Adrian and Lena ate slower, talking in low voices so they wouldn't wake her. So what's your plan? Adrian asked. With Kellerman? Lena sighed. I don't know. Part of me wants to quit. Just walk away and find something better. But, but it's hard, you know. I worked so hard to get that job. Leaving feels like admitting I failed. You didn't fail. They failed you. Lena looked at him, surprised. You really think that? I know that. You're brilliant, Lena. Anyone with half a brain can see it. If they can't, that's their problem, not yours. Lena felt something crack open inside her, something she'd been holding closed for too long. Thanks, she said quietly. I'm serious. You could work anywhere, do anything. Maybe. She paused. What about you? You gonna stick with the solo thing, or are you looking for a team? Adrian shrugged. I don't know. I like the independence, but I also know I can't do this alone forever. Today proved that. You could start your own team, Adrian laughed. With what money? Prize money from today's a start, and if you keep winning, sponsors will come. That's a big if. You just won the Harman Grand Prix in a car you built yourself. I think you've earned the benefit of the doubt. Adrian smiled. You've got more faith in me than I do. Someone has to. They finished eating, paid the bill, and carried Ellie back to the truck. She didn't wake up once, just mumbled something about racing and curled tighter into Adrian's arms. Lena stood by her car, keys in hand, reluctant to leave. This was a good day, she said. Yeah, Adrian agreed. It really was. If you ever need help again, setup, strategy, whatever, just call me. I will. I'm serious, Adrian. Don't try to do everything yourself. I won't. He paused. You gonna be okay? With Kellerman? I'll figure it out. She smiled. I always do. Adrian watched her get in her car and drive off, taillights disappearing into the night. Then he climbed into the truck, checked on Ellie in the back seat, and just sat there for a moment. He'd won. He'd actually won. And for the first time in over a year, the future didn't feel like something to survive. It felt like something to build. Mitad. The next morning, Adrian woke to his phone buzzing nonstop. Messages, emails, missed calls, dozens of them. News outlets, sponsors, racing teams, all wanting to talk. He ignored most of them. But one email caught his eye. It was from a company called Apex Motorsports, a mid-tier racing team looking to expand. They wanted to meet, discuss a potential contract, see if Adrian was interested in driving for them next season. Adrian stared at the email for a long time. A year ago, he would have jumped at the opportunity. But now, after everything he'd been through, he wasn't sure. Driving for someone else meant giving up control. It meant playing by their rules, following their strategies, becoming part of their machine. He thought about the silver car sitting outside, the one he'd built with his own hands. He thought about Ellie, about Lena, about the freedom of racing on his own terms. He closed the email without responding. Not yet. He needed time to think. Ellie wandered into the room, rubbing her eyes. Morning, Daddy. Morning, kiddo. Are we famous now? Adrian laughed. I don't know about famous. People keep calling you. Yeah, they do. What do they want? Mostly money stuff, sponsor stuff. Ellie climbed onto his lap. Are we rich now? Not rich, but we're okay. Good. Can we get pancakes? Absolutely. They got dressed and headed to the same cafe from the day before. It was quieter now, most of the racing crew's already gone. But a few people recognized Adrian and came over to shake his hand, congratulate him, ask for photos. Adrian obliged, still not used to the attention. Then Lena walked in. She looked different today, more put together, hair pulled back, wearing a blazer instead of her usual team jacket. She spotted Adrian and Ellie and walked over. Hey, she said. Hey, you look professional. I have a meeting. With who? My boss. I'm quitting. Adrian's eyes widened. Seriously? Yeah. She sat down, ordered coffee, and leaned back. I thought about what you said last night, about them failing me, not the other way around. You were right. I've been giving them my best work for 2 years, and they've given me nothing in return. So I'm done. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. She smiled. I always do. Ellie tugged Lena's sleeve. Are you going to work with my daddy? Lena glanced at Adrian, eyebrows raised. Is that an offer? Adrian hesitated. I don't even know what I'm doing yet. But if you did? He thought about it. About how much easier yesterday had been with her help. About how much he trusted her judgment, her skill, her honesty. Yeah, he said. If I did, I'd want you there. Lena's smile widened. Good, because I'd say yes. Ellie clapped. Yay, now we're a team. Adrian and Lena looked at each other, something unspoken passing between them again. Maybe they were. Tim. End of part 2. Word count. Part 2 equals approximately 3,400 words. I need to continue and expand part 2 to reach the 6,000 to 6,500 word target. Let me continue the story. The rest of the week was a blur. Adrian fielded calls from sponsors, met with potential investors, and tried to navigate a world he'd never been part of before. Everyone wanted a piece of him now, the underdog who'd come from nowhere and beaten the best. But the attention felt wrong, hollow. These people didn't care about him or Ellie or what he'd sacrificed to get here. They cared about the story, the narrative, the marketing potential. Adrian hated it. On Thursday, he got another email from Apex Motorsports. This time it included a contract offer. The numbers were good. Better than good, actually. 6 figures for the season, full support, access to top-tier equipment, everything he'd need to compete at the highest level. He printed it out and stared at it for an hour. Ellie found him sitting at the kitchen table, contract pages spread out in front of him. What's that? She asked. A job offer. For racing? Yeah. Are you going to take it? Adrian rubbed his face. I don't know. Ellie climbed into the chair beside him. Do you want to? Part of me does. It's a lot of money, Elle. Enough to get us a real place. Enough to stop worrying about bills. But it means I don't get to build my own car anymore. I'd be driving theirs, following their rules. Ellie thought about this. Would you be happy? Adrian looked at her. What? Would it make you happy? The money and the rules and stuff? He didn't have an answer. Ellie shrugged. Mr. Flopsworth says you should only do things that make you happy. Otherwise, what's the point? Adrian smiled despite himself. Mr. Flopsworth's pretty smart. I know. He folded up the contract and put it aside. I'll think about it. Okay. Ellie hopped down. Can we have mac and cheese for dinner? Yeah, we can have mac and cheese. Thanks. That night, after Ellie was asleep, Adrian sat outside on the porch of their rented apartment, staring at the stars. His phone buzzed, a text from Lena. You still awake? He smiled. Yeah. Can't sleep. Me neither. Want company? Sure. 20 minutes later, Lana pulled up in her beat-up sedan. She climbed out carrying 2 coffees and sat down beside him on the steps. Thought you might need this, she said, handing him one. Thanks. They drank in silence for a while, the night quiet except for the distant hum of traffic. I quit today, Lena said finally. Made it official. How'd it go? Gerald didn't even look surprised, just said good luck and went back to his emails. She laughed bitterly. 2 years, and that's all I got. You deserve better. Yeah, I do. She glanced at him. What about you? I saw Apex sent you a contract. How'd you know about that? I still have friends in the paddock. Word travels fast. Adrian sighed. Yeah, they did. You gonna take it? I don't know. It's good money. Solid team, but it's not yours. Yeah, Lena nodded. I get it. You didn't build that car just to hand it over to someone else. Exactly. Adrian paused. Ellie asked me if it would make me happy. I couldn't answer her. Then there's your answer. Adrian looked at her. What do you mean? If you can't say yes immediately, it's probably not the right move. You've spent the last year fighting to do things on your terms. Why stop now? Because I don't know if I can keep doing it alone. You're not alone. Lena met his eyes. You've got me. And if you want to keep building, keep racing the way you want to race, I'll help you. We'll figure it out together. Adrian felt something shift in his chest. You'd really do that? Yeah, I would. Why? Lena thought about it. Because for the first time in 2 years, I feel like I'm doing something that matters. working with you, helping you win, that meant something. It wasn't just another data point or another ignored suggestion. It was real. She paused. I want more of that. Adrian didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. They sat there for a long time, drinking coffee, watching the stars, and slowly letting themselves believe that maybe, just maybe, they could actually pull this off. By the end of the week, Adrian had made his decision. He turned down the Apex contract and sent out a different kind of email, one to a small fabrication shop he'd worked with before, asking about workspace rental. If he was going to keep racing, he needed a real shop, somewhere he could build, test, and prepare without working out of his garage. The shop owner, a gruff man named Eddie, responded within an hour. He had space available, cheap rent, and didn't ask questions. Perfect. Adrian signed the lease that afternoon. Lena helped him move equipment over the weekend. It wasn't much, tools, spare parts, the silver car on a trailer, but it felt like the beginning of something real. Ellie ran around the new shop, exploring every corner, declaring it the best place ever. Can I have a corner? She asked. For what? For my drawings and Mr. Flopsworth's racing team. Adrian laughed. Sure, kiddo, pick a spot. She chose a corner near the workbench, set up a folding chair, and immediately started sketching race cars on scrap paper. Lena watched, smiling. She's got your focus. Yeah, she does. You're really doing this, huh? Starting your own team? Looks like it. You got a name yet? Adrian thought about it. Not yet, but I'll think of something. Lena walked over to the silver car, running her hand along the hood. We should upgrade this. Better suspension, revised aero, maybe a new engine block. With what budget? Prize money from Harmon, and I've got some savings. Adrian shook his head. I'm not taking your money, Lena. It's not a gift, it's an investment. She looked at him seriously. I believe in this. In you. Let me be part of it. Adrian studied her face, saw the determination there, the belief. And he realized she wasn't just talking about the car. She was talking about a future, a partnership, something neither of them had to face alone. Okay, he said, but we do this right. Contracts, equity, everything official. Deal. They shook hands, and just like that, they became partners. Over the next 2 weeks, they worked non-stop. Lena drew up plans for upgrades. Adrian sourced parts. They brought in Eddie to help with fabrication, and slowly the shop started to feel like a real operation. Word got out that Adrian was building his own team, and a few sponsors reached out, small ones, nothing like the big names, but enough to cover costs. A local auto parts store, a tire manufacturer looking for grassroots marketing, a coffee company that wanted their logo on the car. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Ellie loved it. She spent afternoons at the shop after school, doing homework at her corner desk, asking a million questions about how everything worked. Lena taught her about aerodynamics using paper airplanes. Adrian showed her how to read a torque wrench. She soaked it all up like a sponge. One evening, as they locked up the shop, Ellie asked, Daddy, are we rich yet? Adrian laughed. Not even close, kiddo. But we're happy, right? He looked at her, then at Lena standing by the car, then back at the shop they'd built together. Yeah, he said. We're happy. Ellie smiled. Good. That's what matters. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Adrian believed her. The second race came faster than Adrian expected. The Riverside Circuit, a tight technical track known for punishing mistakes and rewarding precision. It was only 6 weeks after Harmon, barely enough time to rebuild the engine, test the upgrades, and prepare mentally for what came next. The shop had become their second home. Adrian spent 18-hour days there, Lena right beside him, both of them covered in grease and running on coffee and stubbornness. Eddie helped when he could, welding new exhaust mounts and reinforcing the chassis where stress cracks had started to show. The car was faster now, sharper, but it was also fragile. Every improvement came with a new risk. Ellie had started bringing friends to the shop after school. At first, Adrian worried about the noise and the danger, but Lena set up a safe zone in the corner with beanbags and a small TV. The kids would sit there doing homework or watching cartoons while the adults worked, occasionally wandering over to ask questions. One afternoon, a girl named Maya Ellie's best friend, asked Lena what she did. I'm an engineer, Lena said, tightening a bolt on the rear suspension. What's that mean? It means I figure out how to make things work better. Like fixing stuff? Sort of. More like making stuff faster and safer. Maya thought about this. Can girls be engineers? Lena looked at her. Girls can be anything they want. My dad says girls aren't good at math. Lena set down her wrench. Your dad's wrong. Maya's eyes widened slightly. Ellie grinned. Lena's really smart, Ellie said proudly. She helped my dad win a race. Really? Yup. She's basically a superhero. Lena laughed, embarrassed. I'm not a superhero. You kind of are, Adrian said from under the car. Lena threw a rag at him. He caught it without looking. Maya watched all of this, something shifting in her expression. I think I want to be an engineer too. Then you should, Lena said. Work hard in school. Ask lots of questions. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. Maya nodded seriously, like Lena had just handed her a mission. Later, after the kids left, Adrian climbed out from under the car and stretched. His back was killing him. You know you just changed that kid's life, right? He said. Lena shrugged, trying to downplay it. I just told her the truth. Yeah, but sometimes that's all it takes. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Lena spoke up. I've been thinking. About? The next race. Riverside's tight, lots of elevation changes. Your car's fast in a straight line, but the corners are going to be tough. I know. We need to adjust the setup, soften the front springs, increase downforce, maybe shorten the gear ratios. Adrian nodded. Agreed. But we're cutting it close on time. We'll make it work. Lena glanced at him. We always do. Adrian smiled. Yeah, we do. But beneath the confidence, both of them felt the pressure building. Harmon had been a miracle. Everyone expected Riverside to be different. The real test. One win could be luck. 2 wins meant legitimacy, and legitimacy came with expectations neither of them was sure they could meet. Cut. The week before the race, things started to unravel. First, one of their small sponsors pulled out. The tire company got cold feet, worried about associating with such a new, unproven team. They sent a polite email and disappeared. Then the engine started misfiring during testing. Not constantly, just occasionally, like a hiccup buried deep in the timing. Adrian and Lena tore it apart 3 times and couldn't find the problem. It's electrical, Lena said, staring at the wiring harness like it had personally offended her. Or fuel delivery, Adrian countered. We checked the fuel system twice. Then we check it again. They were both exhausted, running on fumes, snapping at each other over things that didn't matter. The tension in the shop was thick enough to cut. Eddie finally intervened. You two need to take a break. We don't have time for a break, Adrian said. You're going to burn out before you even get to the track. Take the night off. Get some sleep. Come back fresh. Adrian wanted to argue, but Lena was already putting down her tools. He's right, she said quietly. We're not thinking straight. Adrian exhaled slowly. Fine. One night. They locked up the shop and went their separate ways. Adrian picked up Ellie from Rosa's place and took her home. She was unusually quiet on the drive. You okay, kiddo? He asked. Are you and Lena fighting? Adrian glanced at her. What? No. Why would you think that? You both seem mad. We're not mad at each other. We're just stressed. About the race? Yeah. Ellie was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You're going to do great, Daddy. I know you are. Adrian's chest tightened. Thanks, Elle. And even if you don't win, it's okay. You're still my favorite. He had to blink a few times to clear his vision. You're pretty great, you know that? I know. They got home, and Adrian made spaghetti for dinner. Ellie told him about school, about Maya wanting to be an engineer now, about a drawing she'd made of the silver car with Lena standing beside it. Can I show Lena tomorrow? She asked. Yeah, she'd love that. After Ellie went to bed, Adrian sat on the couch and stared at his phone. He thought about texting Lena, apologizing for being short with her earlier, but he didn't know what to say. Everything felt too big, too complicated. His phone buzzed, a text from Lena. Sorry for snapping earlier. I'm just worried we're not ready. Adrian typed back. Me too, but we'll figure it out. We always do. You sound like me now. Is that a bad thing? No, it's a good thing. He smiled. Get some sleep, Lena. You too. He put the phone down and closed his eyes. Tomorrow they'd go back to the shop and fix whatever was broken. Tonight, he just needed to breathe. Us. The next day, they found the problem. A corroded connection in the ignition coil, barely visible, but enough to cause intermittent misfires. Lena spotted it while Adrian was running diagnostics for the fourth time. There, she said, pointing. See that discoloration? Adrian leaned in. Son of a. How did we miss that? Because we were too tired to see straight. They replaced the coil, tested the engine, and it ran perfectly. Smooth, strong, no hiccups. Lena let out a breath she'd been holding for days. Okay, we're good. We're good, Adrian agreed. Ellie showed up after school with her drawing. Lena looked at it for a long time, then hugged her. This is amazing, Elle. Can I keep it? Really? Really? Ellie beamed. I can make you another one if you want. I'd love that. They loaded the car onto the trailer that night and drove to Riverside. The track was 3 hours away, nestled in the mountains, surrounded by dense forest. It was beautiful in a way that felt almost unfair. How could something so deadly be so pretty? Adrian parked the truck near the paddock entrance and looked around. The setup was different from Harmon. Smaller, more intimate, but no less competitive. Teams were already unloading, crews moving with practiced efficiency. Lena stood beside him, arms crossed. You ready? As ready as I'll ever be. That's not very reassuring. Adrian laughed. It's the best I've got. They set up in their designated pit space, just a small square of asphalt with a canopy and some folding tables. No fancy motorhome, no matching uniforms, just them. Ellie helped unpack tools, organizing them by size like Lena had taught her. A few other teams walked by, glancing at their setup with expressions that ranged from curious to dismissive. Then Damon Rourke showed up. He strolled over casually, hands in his pockets, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky. He looked at the silver car, then at Adrian. Twice in one season, Damon said. Didn't think you'd be back. Here I am. Damon nodded slowly. Harmon was impressive, I'll give you that. But Riverside's different, tighter, less room for error. I've noticed. You sure that car can handle it? We'll find out. Damon smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Yeah, we will. He glanced at Lena. You his engineer now? Partner, Lena said evenly. Right, partner. Damon's tone was mocking, just barely. Good luck with that. He walked off. Adrian's jaw tightened. Ignore him, Lena said. He's just trying to get in your head. I know. Is it working? Adrian exhaled. A little. Don't let it. He's scared. That's why he's here talking trash instead of focusing on his own car. Adrian looked at her. You really think he's scared? Of you? Absolutely. You're an unknown. He can't predict you, can't control you. That terrifies people like him. Adrian thought about that. It made sense. Damon had built his career on dominance, on being untouchable. And Adrian had cracked that image at Harmon. All right, Adrian said. Let's give him something to be scared of. Thumbs. Qualifying was a disaster. Not because Adrian drove poorly. He didn't. He put in a solid lap, clean and controlled. But the car wasn't fast enough. The upgrades helped, but not enough to overcome the disadvantage of being outdeveloped and outspent by every other team. He qualified 8th. Respectable, but nowhere near the front. Lena tried to stay positive. 8th isn't bad. You can work your way up during the race. I needed to be in the top 5 to have a real shot, so you'll fight harder. Adrian didn't respond. He just stared at the car, frustration simmering beneath his skin. Ellie tugged his hand. It's okay, Daddy. You'll catch them. He crouched down. It's not that simple, kiddo. Why not? Because the other cars are faster. But you're a better driver. Adrian smiled despite himself. Maybe. Not maybe. You are. He kissed her forehead. Thanks, Elle. That night, Adrian couldn't sleep. He lay in the truck bed staring at the stars, replaying the qualifying lap in his mind. Every corner, every braking point, every missed opportunity. He'd driven perfectly and still come up short. His phone buzzed. Lena. You awake? Yeah, me too. Want to walk? Sure. They met near the edge of the paddock where the forest started. The air was cool, the sound of distant engines humming in the background as teams worked late into the night. They walked in silence for a while, just following the tree line. I keep thinking about the lap, Adrian said finally. I can't figure out where I lost time. You didn't lose time. The car's just not fast enough yet. So what do we do? Lena stopped walking and turned to face him. We keep building, keep improving. This is only the second race, Adrian. We're not supposed to be perfect yet. I know, but You wanted to prove you're not a fluke. I get it. But one qualifying session doesn't define you. The race does. Adrian looked at her, the moonlight catching in her eyes. You really believe that? Yeah, I do. She paused. And you should too. Adrian nodded slowly. All right, let's make tomorrow count. Heat. Race day started with rain. Again. Not as heavy as Harmon, but steady, turning the track slick and unpredictable. Adrian suited up, strapped into the car, and tried to quiet the noise in his head. 8th place. He'd have to pass 7 cars just to have a chance at the podium. In the wet. On a track that punished mistakes. The odds weren't great, but he'd beaten worse odds before. The starting lights came on. Adrian focused, hands steady, breathing controlled. The lights went out. He launched hard, tires biting, and immediately made up 2 positions in the chaos of turn 1. 6th place. By lap 5, he was 5th. The car felt good in the wet, better than qualifying had suggested. Lena's setup changes were working. He had grip where others were sliding, stability where others were fighting their machines. Lap 10, 4th place. Lap 15, 3rd. He was in the zone now, every movement instinctive, every decision instant. The rain didn't scare him. It leveled the playing field, and on a level field, skill mattered more than money. Lap 20. He was closing on 2nd place, a driver named Torres, experienced and aggressive. Torres saw him coming and defended hard, blocking every line, forcing Adrian wide in the corners. It cost both of them time, and the leader, Marcus Venn, again, started to pull away. Adrian tried everything, inside, outside, late braking, early acceleration, but Torres was smart, keeping his car exactly where Adrian needed to be. On lap 28, Adrian made a mistake. He went for a gap that wasn't there, locked up the brakes, and ran wide. Torres pulled ahead. Adrian dropped to 4th. He swore inside his helmet, furious at himself. Lena's voice crackled over the radio. Stay calm. You've got time. I just lost 3 seconds. You'll get it back. Focus. Adrian took a breath and refocused. She was right. There were still 20 laps left. He started closing the gap again, lap by lap, 10th by 10th. The car was holding up, the engine running strong. By lap 35, he was back on Torres's tail. This time, he didn't rush. He studied Torres's lines, his breaking points, his weaknesses. And on lap 38, he saw it. Torres was running wide in turn 6 every single lap, scrubbing speed on the exit. It was a tiny mistake, barely noticeable, but it was consistent. Adrian set it up perfectly. He braked late into turn 5, carried more speed through the corner, and positioned himself for turn 6. When Torres ran wide, Adrian went inside, threading the car through a gap that shouldn't have existed. He cleared Torres by inches. 3rd place. 10 laps to go. 2nd place was Carlo Mendez, the same driver who'd finished 3rd at Harmon. He was fast, but Adrian was faster. He caught him with 5 laps remaining and passed him cleanly on the main straight. 2nd place. Marcus Venn was still ahead, but the gap was only 4 seconds. Adrian pushed harder than he'd pushed all race. Every corner was on the limit, every braking zone a gamble. The car was starting to feel loose, the tires wearing, but he didn't back off. 3 laps to go. The gap was down to 2 seconds. 2 laps to go, 1 second. Final lap. Adrian could see Marcus's rear wing through the spray. Turn 9. Adrian dove inside, but Marcus blocked. They went through the corner side by side, neither giving an inch. Turn 11, the final corner before the straight. Adrian had 1 chance. He braked later than physics should allow, felt the car start to slide, and somehow kept it together. He pulled alongside Marcus, the 2 cars so close their mirrors nearly touched. They crossed the line together, and Adrian lost by 0.02 seconds. He sat in the car for a long time after crossing the line, helmet still on, hands still gripping the wheel. Second place. He'd driven the race of his life and still lost. But when he climbed out, Lena was there, grinning. "That was incredible," she said. "I lost." "You got second, against drivers who've been doing this for a decade. That's not losing, Adrian. That's proving you belong." Ellie ran up, Rosa trailing behind, and threw herself at him. "You were so fast, Daddy, so fast." Adrian hugged her tight, and slowly, the frustration started to ease. Lena was right. Second place wasn't failure, it was progress, and progress was enough. For now. End of part 3. Word. Count. Part 3 equals approximately 3,100 words. Let me continue and expand to reach the 6,000 to 6,500 word target. The podium felt different this time. Not worse, just different. Adrian stood on the second step, Marcus Venn to his right, Carlo Mendez to his left. The crowd cheered, cameras flashed, champagne sprayed. But Adrian's mind was already on the next race. Second wasn't good enough, not anymore. After the ceremony, reporters swarmed again. Same questions, different race. "Adrian, you've now finished first and second in your first 2 races. What's the secret?" "No secret, just hard work." "Are you satisfied with second place?" "No?" The honesty caught them off guard. One reporter leaned in. "Why not?" "Because I came here to win. Second means I have more work to do." "Do you think you can beat Marcus Venn consistently?" Adrian glanced at Marcus, who was talking to his own crowd of reporters. "Yeah, I do." The reporters loved that. The narrative was writing itself. Underdog refuses to settle, gunning for the top. Adrian didn't care about the story. He cared about the result. Lena found him after the media cleared out. "You handled that well." "Did I?" "Better than I would have. I'd have told them all to leave me alone." Adrian smiled. "I thought about it." They walked back to the pit area together. The paddock was emptying out, teams packing up, heading to the next circuit. Adrian's small setup looked even smaller now, surrounded by the massive operations of the bigger teams. "We need more," Adrian said quietly. "More what?" "Everything. Better equipment, more testing time, another crew member. We're maxed out, Lena. You and me and Eddie, we're doing everything we can, but it's not enough to keep up." Lena didn't argue. She knew he was right. "So what do we do?" "I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out." "We keep saying that." "Because we keep doing it." Lena smiled. "Fair point." They finished packing and loaded the car onto the trailer. Ellie was asleep in the truck, Mr. Flopsworth tucked under her chin, exhausted from the excitement. Adrian stood there for a moment, looking at the silver car. It had brought him this far, but he didn't know if it could take him all the way. "Hey," Lena said, breaking his thoughts. "Whatever you're thinking, stop." "What?" "You're doubting. I can see it." Adrian sighed. "I just don't know if we're good enough." "We got second place, Adrian, at a track everyone said would destroy us. We're more than good enough." "Marcus is still better." "For now. But we're getting closer every race, and when we finally beat him, it's going to mean something." Adrian looked at her, and something in her expression, confidence, belief, stubbornness, made him believe it too. "All right," he said, "let's get to work." The next race was 3 weeks away. The Coastal Grand Prix, a fast-flowing circuit right on the ocean, known for high speeds and dramatic crashes. It was also the most expensive race to enter. Higher fees, stricter regulations, more scrutiny. Adrian and Lena pooled what was left of their prize money and sponsor funds. It was just barely enough. They spent every available hour in the shop, refining the car, testing new parts, pushing every system to its limit. Eddie brought in a friend, a fabricator named Luis, who'd worked in professional racing before burning out and walking away. He was quiet, skilled, and didn't ask many questions. "You really think you can win this thing?" Luis asked one afternoon, watching Adrian adjust the suspension. "Yeah." "You got the skills, but the car's still at a disadvantage." "I know. So how do you plan to close the gap?" Adrian straightened up, wiping grease off his hands. "By being smarter, faster, willing to take risks they won't." Luis nodded slowly. All right, I can respect that. Lena was working on aerodynamics, sketching modifications to the rear wing that might gain them a few tenths in the high-speed sections. She'd been up for 36 hours straight, running simulations, tweaking variables, obsessing over every detail. Adrian found her asleep at her desk, head on a stack of papers. He draped his jacket over her shoulders and let her rest. Ellie wandered over, holding a juice box. Is Lena okay? She's just tired. She works really hard. Yeah, she does. Do you love her? Adrian froze. What? Do you love Lena? He didn't know how to answer that. He cared about Lena, trusted her, relied on her in ways he hadn't relied on anyone in years. But love? That word felt too big, too complicated. I don't know, Elle. That's okay. You'll figure it out. She said it so simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Adrian watched her walk back to her corner, then looked at Lena sleeping at the desk. Maybe Ellie was right. Maybe he would figure it out. The week before Coastal, disaster struck. Adrian was testing the car on a private track Eddie had access to. Just a few shakedown laps, nothing aggressive. But on lap 4, something in the suspension broke. The car snapped sideways, spun, and slammed into the barrier. Adrian was fine, shaken but unhurt. The car wasn't. The front end was destroyed. Bodywork shredded, suspension twisted. One of the uprights cracked clean through. Lena stood there staring at the wreckage, her face pale. How bad? Adrian asked. Bad. Her voice was hollow. We don't have time to fix this before Coastal. We'll make time. Adrian, look at it. This isn't a patch job. We need new parts, new fabrication. That's a week of work at minimum. Then we work faster. We can't. Yes, we can. Adrian's voice was firm. We've come too far to quit now. We'll figure it out. We always do. Lena looked at him, saw the determination in his eyes, and felt something shift. He wasn't giving up, which meant she couldn't either. All right, she said. Let's get to work. They called Eddie and Luis. Both showed up within the hour. For the next 5 days, they worked around the clock. Cutting, welding, fabricating, testing. Adrian barely slept. Lena didn't sleep at all. Ellie stayed with Rosa during the day, but Adrian brought her to the shop at night. She'd curl up in the corner with blankets and pillows, falling asleep to the sound of tools and welding torches. On the 4th day, Luis pulled Adrian aside. You know this is insane, right? Yeah. And you're doing it anyway. Yeah. Luis shook his head, almost smiling. You got guts, man. I'll give you that. By the 5th day, the car was ready. Barely. It looked rough. Mismatched paint, visible welds, a few zip-tied parts that should have been bolted. But it ran. They loaded it onto the trailer at 2 a.m. and drove straight to Coastal. No rest, no recovery, just momentum. Lena sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window. We're crazy. Probably. This might not work. It might. She glanced at him. You really believe that? Adrian thought about it. I have to. Lena nodded, then leaned her head against the window and closed her eyes. They arrived at Coastal with 6 hours to spare before qualifying. The paddock was already buzzing, teams prepping, drivers warming up. Adrian's pit space looked like a disaster zone. Tools everywhere, parts scattered, the car held together with hope and duct tape. Other teams walked by and stared. Some laughed, others just shook their heads. Damon Rourke stopped by, arms crossed, smirking. Rough week? Adrian didn't look up from the suspension he was adjusting. Something like that. You sure that thing's safe to drive? Safe enough. Damon crouched down, examining the welds. You know, there's no shame in sitting this one out. Come back when you're actually ready. Adrian set down his wrench and looked Damon in the eye. I'm ready. You don't look ready. Good thing looks don't win races. Damon's smirk faded. He stood, dusted off his hands, and walked away without another word. Lena appeared beside Adrian. He's rattled. Good. You really think we can pull this off? Adrian looked at the car, battered, patched, barely holding together. Then he looked at Lena, exhausted but still standing. Then at Ellie, asleep in the truck, trusting him completely. Yeah, he said, I do. Qualifying was brutal. The car handled differently after the repairs, twitchy and unpredictable. Adrian fought it through every corner, dragging it to the limit and beyond. He qualified fifth. Not great, but given the circumstances, it was a miracle. Lena ran diagnostics immediately, checking every system. We're holding together. Barely. That's all we need. Adrian, if anything breaks during the race, it won't. You don't know that. No, but I'm choosing to believe it anyway. Lena wanted to argue, but she was too tired, so she just nodded. That night, Adrian sat with Ellie on the tailgate of the truck, watching the sunset over the ocean. The water was calm, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. Tomorrow's a big day, Ellie said. Yeah. Are you scared? A little. That's okay. Being scared means you care. Adrian smiled. Where'd you learn that? Lena told me. She's pretty smart. I know. Ellie leaned against him. You're gonna win, Daddy. I can feel it. Adrian didn't know if she was right, but hearing her say it made him believe just a little that maybe she was. Race day. Clear skies, light wind, perfect conditions. The kind of day that made racing feel like art. Adrian strapped in, ran through his pre-race checks, and waited for the lights. The grid was stacked. Marcus Venn on pole, Damon Rourke in second, Adrian in fifth, surrounded by drivers who'd been racing professionally for years. But none of that mattered now. The lights came on, and Adrian Wolf was ready to fight. The lights went out and Adrian launched cleanly, holding fifth through the first corner. The pack surged ahead of him, Marcus in the lead, Damon right behind, then Torres and Carlo fighting for third. Adrian tucked in behind Carlo, staying patient, waiting for the right moment. The coastal circuit was fast and unforgiving. Long straights followed by tight hairpins, elevation changes that compressed and expanded the suspension, corners that demanded commitment. One mistake here and you were in the wall or the ocean. Adrian felt the car underneath him, still twitchy from the rushed repairs, but responsive. He could work with responsive. Lap 3. Carlo made a small mistake exiting turn 7, running wide by half a car width. Adrian didn't hesitate. He drove into the gap, wheels inches from the edge of the track, and squeezed through on the inside. Carlo tried to close the door, but it was too late. Fourth place. Ahead, Torres was defending hard against Damon, the two of them locked in a battle that was slowing them both down. Adrian closed the gap quickly, studying their lines, waiting. Lap 8. Torres and Damon went into turn 4 side by side, fighting for position, leaving the inside line completely open. Adrian dove through the gap like threading a needle, passing both of them in a single corner. Second place. The crowd erupted. In the stands, Ellie was screaming so loud Rosa had to cover her own ears. Lena stood in the pit lane, hands pressed to her mouth, eyes locked on the monitor. Come on, she whispered. Come on, Adrian. Now it was just Marcus ahead. The gap was 3 seconds, and Marcus was driving a perfect race. No mistakes, no wasted movement, every lap a masterclass in precision. But Adrian had something Marcus didn't. Hunger. He pushed the car harder than he'd pushed it all season. Every corner was on the absolute limit, tires screaming, suspension bottoming out on the curbs. The gap started to shrink. 3 seconds became 2.5, then 2. Lap 15. Marcus noticed. Adrian could tell by the way his lines changed, becoming more defensive. He was protecting his lead instead of extending it. That was a mistake. Lap 20. The gap was down to 1 second. Adrian could see Marcus's rear wing clearly now, could see the spray of rubber coming off his tires. They were both pushing their machines to the edge. Then, on lap 22, Adrian's worst fear came true. The rear suspension made a sound. A sharp crack, barely audible over the engine, and the car twitched violently to the left. Adrian corrected immediately, muscle memory taking over, but his heart was hammering. Something had broken, or was about to. Lena's voice crackled over the radio. Adrian, your telemetry just spiked. What's happening? Rear end feels loose. Might be the suspension. Can you continue? Adrian took the next corner carefully, feeling the car respond. It was different now, unstable, but still drivable. Barely. Yeah, I can continue. How bad? Bad enough. There was a pause, then Lena's voice came back, steadier than before. Then make it count. If you're going to push a broken car, make it count. Adrian smiled grimly inside his helmet. Copy that. He kept pushing. The car was getting worse with every lap, the handling deteriorating, the rear end sliding unpredictably. But he didn't back off. Couldn't. Lap 30. The gap to Marcus was holding at 0.8 of a second, close enough to see him, not close enough to pass. Lap 35. Adrian tried to move into turn 11, diving inside, but Marcus shut the door perfectly. Adrian had to back out or risk contact. Lap 40. 10 laps to go. The suspension was barely holding together. Adrian could feel every bump, every imperfection in the track transmitted directly through the chassis. It was like driving a car made of glass. But he kept going. Lap 45. 5 laps left. Marcus made his first mistake of the race, running slightly wide in turn 6, scrubbing just a bit of speed. Adrian closed to 0.6. Lap 47. 3 laps. The gap was half a second. Adrian's mind was completely clear now. No fear, no doubt, just focus. He knew what he had to do. Turn 9 was the only place he could realistically pass. A long, fast right-hander that opened onto the main straight. If he could get alongside Marcus there, he could beat him to the braking zone for turn 10. It was risky, maybe suicidal, but it was the only shot he had. Lap 49, final lap. Adrian closed right up to Marcus's rear wing going into turn 8. He could see Marcus's helmet in the mirrors, could see him adjusting, preparing for the defense he knew was coming. Turn 9 approached. Adrian went for it. He positioned the car to the outside, the long way around, the slower line, the one no one in their right mind would take. Marcus covered the inside, expecting Adrian to dive there, but Adrian didn't. He stayed outside, carried more speed through the corner than physics should allow, and trusted the car. Broken, battered, barely holding together, to grip. It gripped. He pulled alongside Marcus on the exit, the two cars side by side, engines screaming. Marcus glanced over, shocked. He hadn't expected the outside move. They hit the straight together, neither giving an inch. Adrian's car was faster in a straight line, always had been, but Marcus had the inside line for turn 10. The braking zone came up fast. Too fast. Adrian braked later than he'd ever braked in his life. The car shuddered, the rear end stepped out, and for a split second he thought he was going to spin. But the car held. He turned in, Marcus right beside him, the two of them entering the corner together like they were tied by an invisible rope. They exited together. One corner left. Turn 11, a tight hairpin. Adrian had the inside line now. Marcus tried to go around the outside, but Adrian held his position, didn't give him space. Marcus had to brake, had to lift. Adrian didn't. He pulled ahead by half a car length, then a full length. The finish line was 200 meters away. 100. 50. Marcus made one last desperate lunge, but it wasn't enough. Adrian crossed the line first. He'd won. Fates. For a moment, Adrian couldn't process it. His brain was still in race mode, still calculating corners and braking points. Then reality hit like a lightning strike. He screamed inside the helmet, raw and primal, all the exhaustion and fear and hope of the past weeks exploding out of him in one sound. Lena was jumping in the pit lane, shouting, crying, grabbing anyone nearby and shaking them. Luis and Eddie were pounding each other on the back, grinning like idiots. Ellie was running in circles, waving Mr. Flopsworth like a championship flag. Adrian pulled into the pit lane, the car barely rolling to a stop before the engine made a terrible grinding noise and died completely. The suspension was done. The car was done. But it had lasted long enough. He climbed out, legs shaking, and Lena was there immediately, throwing her arms around him. "You did it," she said, voice breaking. "You actually did it." Adrian hugged her back, holding on tight. "We did it." "No, you did. That last lap, that was all you. The car held because you built it right. The car held because you believed it would." They pulled back, and Adrian saw tears on her face. He'd never seen Lena cry before. It made something in his chest crack open. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything." Lena shook her head, smiling through the tears. Don't thank me yet. We've still got work to do. Then Ellie crashed into both of them, and they nearly fell over from the impact. Daddy, Daddy, you won! You really won! Adrian scooped her up, and she wrapped her arms around his neck so tight he could barely breathe. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. Adrian's throat closed up. He couldn't speak, so he just held her and let himself feel it. The pride, the relief, the overwhelming sense that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. The podium ceremony was chaos. Adrian stood on the top step again, Marcus to his right looking genuinely impressed, and Torres to his left. The champagne sprayed, the crowd roared, and Adrian held the trophy high. But this time felt different from Harmon. This wasn't luck or a miracle. This was proof. He could compete. He could win. And he could do it more than once. The media descended immediately after the ceremony, a wall of cameras and recorders. Adrian back-to-back wins now. How does it feel? Unreal. Your car barely made it to the finish. Were you worried it wouldn't hold together? Every single lap. What's next for you? Are you considering offers from bigger teams? Adrian paused. He'd gotten 3 more offers in the past week. Bigger teams, better money, full support. But every time he thought about signing, something stopped him. Right now, I'm focused on building something with my own team. We've come this far together. I'm not ready to walk away from that. Even if it means more risk, especially then. The reporters loved that answer. The underdog narrative was getting stronger with every race. After the media cleared out, Adrian found himself alone in the pit lane, just staring at the silver car. It looked like it had been through a war, which, in a way, it had. The front end was scarred, the bodywork dented, the suspension visibly sagging, but it had won. Marcus Venn walked over, hands in his pockets. Hell of a race. Adrian turned. Thanks. That outside move in turn 9, I didn't see it coming. Good, Marcus smiled. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone who'd burn out after one win, get overwhelmed, make mistakes, fade away. He paused. You're not fading. No, I'm not. Marcus nodded slowly. I respect that. Most guys in your position would have taken the first big contract offered, but you're building something real. Trying to. Well, keep trying. This sport needs more people like you. Marcus extended his hand. See you at the next one. Adrian shook it. See you there. Marcus walked off, and Adrian stood there for a long moment, letting the words sink in. Respect from Marcus Venn wasn't something to take lightly. It meant something. Lena appeared beside him. What did he say? That I'm not fading. Damn right you're not. Adrian smiled. We need a new car. I know. This one's done. I know. And we're almost out of money again. I know that too. Lena crossed her arms. But we'll figure it out. We always do. Adrian laughed. You sound like me now. Is that a bad thing? No, it's a good thing. They stood there together, looking at the battered car, the empty pit lane, the ocean in the distance. The sun was setting, painting everything in gold and orange. You know what's crazy? Lena said. What? A few months ago, I was stuck in a job I hated, working for people who didn't respect me, going nowhere. She paused. And now I'm here, building race cars, winning races, doing something that actually matters. You matter, Lena. You always did. She looked at him, and something passed between them, something warm and unspoken and fragile. So do you, she said quietly. Adrian wanted to say something else, something important, but Ellie came running up before he could find the words. Can we get ice cream now? She asked. Adrian laughed, the moment breaking. Yeah, kiddo, we can get ice cream. Can Lena come? Of course. Ellie grabbed both their hands and started pulling them toward the exit. Come on, before all the good flavors are gone. Adrian and Lena followed, letting themselves be dragged along, and for the first time in longer than either could remember, they felt something that had been missing for a very long time. They felt like a family. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. Prize money came in. Sponsor inquiries flooded Adrian's email. A local news station wanted to do a feature story. Everything was moving faster than he could process. But with the attention came pressure. People expected him to keep winning, to prove it wasn't a fluke, to become the story everyone wanted him to be. Adrian tried to ignore it and focus on the work. They started designing the new car, something built from the ground up, not salvaged and repaired. Lena drew up plans. Eddie and Luis sourced materials. It was ambitious, maybe too ambitious, but they were committed. Ellie loved being part of it. She helped organize parts, labeled boxes, made drawings of what she thought the new car should look like. Most of her designs included racing stripes and flames, but a few of her ideas, like a lower center of gravity and better airflow, were surprisingly sound. "She's got instincts," Lena said one afternoon, looking at Ellie's latest sketch. "She's 7. So, I knew I wanted to be an engineer when I was 6. "Really?" "Yep. Took apart my dad's radio to see how it worked. He was furious." Adrian laughed. "Did you put it back together?" "Eventually. It didn't work the same, but I learned a lot." "Your dad must have been proud." Lena's smile faded a little. "Not really. He wanted me to be a teacher or a nurse, something safe. When I told him I was studying engineering, he said I was wasting my time." "That's terrible." "Yeah, it was." She paused. "But I proved him wrong, and that felt pretty good." Adrian understood that feeling, the need to prove people wrong, to show them you were capable of more than they believed. "You think we can actually pull this off?" he asked, "building a whole new car from scratch?" "Honestly, I don't know. It's a huge risk. We could run out of money, run out of time, build something that doesn't work." She looked at him. "But I think it's worth trying." "Even if we fail?" "Even then, because at least we'll have tried." Adrian nodded. "All right, let's do it." But building the new car meant they couldn't race for a while. They had to skip the next event, a street circuit in the city, to focus on construction. It was a hard decision, one that cost them momentum and visibility. People started talking. Social media lit up with speculation. Was Adrian Wolf done already? Had the pressure gotten to him? Was the Underdog story over? Adrian tried not to read the comments, but it was impossible. Every time he opened his phone, there they were. Knew it was too good to be true. He got lucky twice and now he's hiding. Bet he took the money and ran. Lena found him one night sitting in the shop, staring at his phone, jaw tight. "You're reading them again," she said. "I shouldn't." "No, you shouldn't." She sat down beside him. "You know none of that matters, right?" "It feels like it matters. Only because you're letting it." She took the phone from his hand and set it aside. "Listen to me. We're building something real here, something that takes time. The people who matter, the ones who've actually been paying attention, they understand that. And the ones who don't? Screw them." Adrian smiled despite himself. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple. We do the work, we build the car, we come back stronger. Everything else is noise." "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You're just now noticing." Adrian laughed, and some of the tension in his chest eased. Lena was right. The noise didn't matter. The work did. They spent the next 4 weeks in the shop, barely sleeping, barely eating, just building. The new car started to take shape, sleeker, lighter, more aerodynamic than the silver car had ever been. Lena's designs were brilliant, every detail optimized for speed and efficiency. Eddie and Luis worked overtime, welding and fabricating with a precision that bordered on artistry. Even Ellie contributed, helping paint the new bodywork, a deep midnight blue with silver accents that caught the light. "It's beautiful," Lena said, stepping back to admire it. "It better be fast, too," Adrian said. "It will be. Trust me." They finished the car 2 days before the next race, the Desert Grand Prix, a brutal, high-speed circuit in the middle of nowhere. They loaded it onto the trailer and drove through the night, arriving just in time for registration. The paddock buzzed when they rolled in. People stared at the new car, whispering, pointing. It looked professional now, legitimate, like they actually belonged. Damon Rourke walked past, stopped, and did a double take. "New car?" he said. "Yeah." He circled it slowly, examining every detail. "Not bad. You build this yourselves, too?" "Every part." Damon nodded, almost impressed. "You're either crazy or brilliant. I haven't figured out which yet." "Maybe both." Damon smiled. "Yeah, maybe both." He walked off, and Adrian felt a small surge of satisfaction. They were back, and this time they were ready. Qualifying was strong. Adrian put the car fourth on the grid, just behind Marcus, Damon, and Torres. The new car felt incredible, responsive, balanced, confident. Lena's upgrades had worked. Race day was scorching hot, the desert sun beating down on the track, turning the asphalt into a furnace. Adrian could feel the heat through the seat, through the steering wheel, through everything. But he didn't care. He was in the zone. The lights went out, and Adrian launched perfectly. He held fourth through turn 1, then made an aggressive move in turn 3, squeezing past Torres on the inside. Third place. Ahead, Damon and Marcus were already pulling away, locked in their own battle. Adrian focused on closing the gap, lap by lap, pushing the new car to its limits. Lap 10. He was within striking distance of Damon. Lap 15. He made his move, diving inside at the hairpin. Damon fought back, but Adrian held his ground. Second place. Now it was just Marcus. The gap was 2 seconds, and Marcus was driving flawlessly. But Adrian wasn't intimidated. Not anymore. He pushed harder, finding time in places he didn't know existed. The new car was faster, more stable, more forgiving. It gave him confidence to take risks. Lap 25. The gap was 1 second. Lap 30. Half a second. Lap 35. He was on Marcus's tail. And then, with 10 laps to go, Marcus made a mistake. He locked up the brakes going into turn 8, ran wide, and scrubbed speed. Adrian didn't hesitate. He drove through the gap, clean and decisive. First place. The crowd went insane. In the stands, Ellie was screaming. In the pit lane, Lena was crying again. Adrian focused on the road ahead, hands steady, mind clear. He held the lead for the final 10 laps, never wavering, never doubting. And when he crossed the finish line, Adrian Wolf had won his third race in a row. 1. End of part 4. Word. Count. Part 4 equals approximately 3,450 words. Let me continue and expand part 4 to reach the 6,000 to 6,500 word target. The victory felt different this time. Not bigger or more meaningful, but quieter. More certain. Like something that was supposed to happen had happened. Adrian climbed out of the car and was immediately swarmed by his small crew. Eddie grabbed him in a bear hug. Luis pounded his back. Lena stood there with tears streaming down her face, not even trying to hide them. 3 in a row, she said, voice shaking. Do you understand what that means? Adrian nodded, still processing. Yeah, I think I do. You're not a fluke anymore, you're a contender. Ellie broke through the crowd and launched herself at him. Adrian caught her, spun her around, and she laughed so hard she could barely breathe. You're the best driver in the whole world, she said, when he finally put her down. I don't know about that. I do. You're my daddy, so you have to be. Adrian's throat tightened. He looked at Lena, who was smiling through her tears, then at Eddie and Luis, who'd bet on him when no one else would, then at the midnight blue car, still ticking as it cooled down, having delivered exactly what they'd built it to do. This wasn't just about racing anymore. It was about proving that hard work mattered, that belief mattered, that you could start with nothing and build something real. The media came next, the same barrage of questions, but this time Adrian was ready. Adrian, 3 consecutive wins. How does it feel? Like the beginning of something. Are you surprised by your success? No, we've worked too hard to be surprised. What about the critics who said you'd disappear after skipping the last race? Adrian smiled. Let them talk. We were busy building. Your car looks completely different. What changed? Everything. We started from scratch, designed it specifically for what we needed. No compromises. And it's working. So far. What's next? Adrian paused. He hadn't thought that far ahead. The next race was in 2 weeks, but beyond that the season was still wide open. Keep racing, keep building, keep proving we belong. The reporters ate it up. The underdog narrative was evolving into something else now, David becoming a legitimate threat to Goliath. After the media cleared, Marcus Venn found Adrian in the pit lane again. Congratulations, Marcus said, offering his hand. Adrian shook it. Thanks. That was a hell of a race. You're getting faster. Every time we race, you're faster. So are you. Marcus smiled. Maybe, but you're improving at a rate I haven't seen before. It's impressive. High praise coming from you. I don't give praise I don't mean. Marcus paused. You've earned your spot here, Wolf. Don't let anyone tell you different. I won't. Marcus nodded and walked off. Adrian stood there feeling the weight of those words. Respect from Marcus Venn. Acceptance into the ranks of drivers who'd spent their entire lives preparing for this. He'd made it. Lena appeared beside him, carrying 2 bottles of water. She handed him one. Marcus looked happy, she said. He congratulated me. That means something? Yeah, it does. They stood in silence for a moment, drinking water, watching the paddock slowly empty as teams packed up. We should celebrate, Lena said. We should. But we're both too tired, aren't we? Completely, Lena laughed. Rain check? Deal. Ellie ran up, holding a small trophy the organizers had given her, a participation award for being the cutest fan. She was beaming. Look what I got. That's amazing, kiddo, Adrian said. Can we put it next to your trophy? Absolutely. They loaded up the truck and headed back to the hotel. Adrian drove, Ellie asleep in the back seat, Lena in the passenger seat scrolling through messages on her phone. We got 5 more sponsor inquiries, she said. Serious ones? 2 are. The others are just trying to ride the hype. Which 2? A performance tire company and an energy drink brand. Both want to talk numbers. Adrian thought about it. More sponsors meant more money, which meant better equipment, more testing, maybe even hiring additional crew, but it also meant obligations, expectations, pressure. Let's meet with them, he said finally. See what they're offering. You sure? We can't keep doing this on fumes. If we want to compete long-term, we need support. Lena nodded. All right, I'll set it up. They drove in silence for a while. The desert stretched out around them, endless and empty, the stars so bright they almost hurt to look at. Can I ask you something? Lena said quietly. Yeah. What happens if we keep winning? Adrian glanced at her. What do you mean? I mean, what happens when this stops being the underdog story and starts being the real deal? When teams start throwing serious money at you, offering contracts you can't refuse? I don't know. Would you take one? Adrian thought about it. A year ago, the answer would have been yes without hesitation. But now, after everything they'd built together, the answer wasn't so simple. I don't want to lose this, he said finally. What we've got here, you, me, Eddie, Luis, even Ellie, it matters. More than money, more than contracts. But I also don't want to hold us back. If there's an opportunity that makes sense that lets us grow without losing who we are, I'd consider it. Lena was quiet for a long moment. That's a good answer. Is it? Yeah, it means you're thinking long term. Not just about the next race, but about what comes after. You think I should be? I think we both should. She looked at him. This is real now, Adrian. We're not just surviving anymore. We're competing, and that changes things. Adrian knew she was right. The landscape was shifting beneath them, and they needed to shift with it or get left behind. We'll figure it out, he said. Lena smiled. We always do. The sponsor meetings happened the following week. Both companies were professional, serious, and ready to invest. The tire company offered product support and a modest cash sponsorship. The energy drink brand offered more money but wanted branding all over the car. Adrian and Lena talked it through with Eddie and Luis, weighing the pros and cons. The tire deal makes sense, Eddie said. We're burning through rubber like crazy. Having a supplier would save us a fortune. But the energy drink money is 10 times what the tire company's offering, Luis pointed out. Money's not everything, Lena said. If we plaster the car with their logo, we lose our identity. We become another billboard instead of a team. So we take the tire deal, Adrian said. You sure? Lena asked. That's a lot of money to walk away from. I'm sure. We started this to build something we believed in. I'm not selling that out for a paycheck. Lena smiled. Good, because I was hoping you'd say that. They signed with the tire company the next day. It wasn't flashy, but it was smart, and it gave them the foundation they needed to keep building. The next race was at Silverstone Ridge, a historic circuit with a reputation for breaking cars and spirits, fast, technical, and utterly merciless. It was also the halfway point of the season, which meant the championship standings were starting to matter. Adrian was currently third in points, behind Marcus and Damon. If he could win at Silverstone, he'd move into second, maybe even first, depending on how the other two finished. The pressure was mounting, but so was the belief. They arrived at Silverstone a day early, giving themselves extra time to prep. The paddock was more crowded than usual, media everywhere, fans lining the fences hoping for autographs. Adrian signed a few, still not used to being recognized, and made his way to the pit area. The midnight blue car gleamed under the lights, fresh tires mounted, every system checked and rechecked. "We're ready," Lena said, running through her checklist one last time. "You sure?" "As sure as I've ever been." Qualifying went well. Adrian put the car third on the grid, right between Marcus and Damon. Perfect position to strike. Race day was overcast, the threat of rain hanging in the air. The kind of day where anything could happen. Adrian strapped in, focused, breathing steadily. This was it. The race that could change everything. The lights came on, and Adrian Wolf was ready. The lights went out and chaos erupted. Damon jumped the start. Barely. Just a fraction of a second, but enough to get alongside Marcus before turn 1. They went in side by side, neither backing down, and Adrian saw his chance. He drove down the inside, threading between them and the apex, a move so tight there was no room for error. All three cars came out of turn 1 together, but Adrian had the momentum. He pulled ahead into second place, Marcus holding first, Damon falling to third. The race was on. For the first 10 laps, it was a three-way battle at the front. Marcus defending, Adrian probing for weaknesses, Damon waiting for both of them to make mistakes. The gap between first and third was less than a second, all three drivers pushing to the absolute limit. Then the rain came. Not heavy, just a drizzle, but enough to change everything. The track went from grippy to treacherous in seconds. Marcus backed off slightly, protecting his lead. Damon did the same. But Adrian didn't. He'd won in the rain before. Twice. He knew how to feel the car on the edge of control, how to trust it when it started to slide. The rain didn't scare him. It gave him an advantage. Lap 15. Adrian closed on Marcus through the fast chicane, staying on the throttle where Marcus lifted. He pulled alongside on the exit and they went into the next corner wheel to wheel. Marcus defended hard, but Adrian had the better line. He squeezed through, clean and decisive. First place. Lena was shouting over the radio, but Adrian couldn't hear the words. He was in the zone completely, every sense heightened, every movement automatic. Behind him, Damon made a move on Marcus, passing him for second. Now it was Damon chasing Adrian, and Damon was fast in the wet. Dangerous. Lap 20. Damon closed the gap to half a second. Lap 25. 0.3. Adrian could see him in the mirrors now, stalking, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The rain was getting heavier, visibility dropping, the track becoming a minefield of standing water. Lap 30. Damon made his move at the hairpin, diving inside with everything he had. Adrian saw it coming and shut the door just in time. Damon had to back out or they'd crash. Frustration radiated from Damon's car. Adrian could feel it. Lap 35. Damon tried again, this time around the outside of the fast left-hander. It was insane, reckless, the kind of move that could end both their races. Adrian gave him space, barely, and held his position. Damon fell back again. Lap 40. 10 laps to go. The gap was still 0.3, then Adrian felt it. A vibration in the steering wheel, subtle at first, then stronger. Something was wrong. The front left tire was wearing unevenly, the tread coming apart under the stress of the wet track. Lena's voice crackled through. "Adrian, your tire temps are spiking. Front left might be going." "How long do I have?" "I don't know. Could be 1 lap, could be 5. Adrian made a split-second decision. He couldn't pit. There wasn't enough time to change tires and catch back up. He had to make the tire last. He adjusted his driving, taking weight off the front left wherever possible, shifting his braking points, altering his lines. It cost him speed. The gap to Damon shrank. Lap 42. 0.2. Lap 44. 0.1. Lap 45. Damon was right there, close enough to touch. 5 laps left. The tire was shredding now. Adrian could feel it through the wheel, the car pulling left, the vibration getting worse. But he couldn't back off, not now. Lap 46. Damon went for it again inside at turn 7. This time he committed fully, no backing out. Adrian defended, but the damaged tire betrayed him. The car didn't respond the way it should. Damon got alongside and they went through the corner together, inches apart. They exited side by side. The straight opened up ahead. Damon had fresher tires, better grip, more speed. He started to pull ahead. But Adrian didn't give up. He stayed on the throttle, drafting behind Damon, using every bit of slipstream to stay close. The next corner approached, a fast right-hander that demanded commitment. Damon braked first, protecting the inside. Adrian braked later. Too late. The damaged tire locked up. The car slid wide. And for a moment, Adrian thought he was going off track, but muscle memory took over. He caught the slide, corrected, and somehow stayed on the circuit. He'd lost the position. Damon was ahead now, second place. 3 laps to go. Adrian's mind raced. He could settle for second, play it safe, protect the points. Or he could push, risk everything on a damaged tire and try to win. He thought about Ellie, watching from the stands. About Lena, who'd poured her heart into building this car. About Eddie and Luis, who'd worked around the clock. About everyone who'd believed in him when no one else did. He pushed. Lap 48. He closed on Damon through the technical section, finding time in places he didn't know existed. The tire was barely holding together, the vibration so bad his hands were numb. But he didn't lift. Lap 49. Final lap. Adrian was right on Damon's tail through the first sector, through the second. The gap was shrinking, but not fast enough. Then Damon made his only mistake of the race. Coming out of the final chicane, he ran wide by half a car width. Just a fraction, barely noticeable. But Adrian saw it. He dove inside, the damaged tire screaming in protest, the car sliding sideways. Damon tried to close the door, but Adrian was already through. They hit the final straight side by side. The finish line was ahead. 200 meters. Both drivers pinned their throttles. Both cars screaming. 100 meters. Adrian's tire was disintegrating, pieces of rubber flying off, the wheel rims starting to scrape the track. 50 meters. Damon pulled alongside, half a car length ahead, 20 meters. Adrian gave it everything. The engine howled, the car shook, the tire finally gave up completely. 10 meters. They crossed the line together, and Adrian won by 0.003 seconds, the smallest margin in the history of Silverstone Ridge. But Adrian sat in the car, unable to move. His hands were shaking so badly he couldn't unbuckle his harness. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by exhaustion so complete he could barely think. He'd won, by 0.003 of a second, on a tire that had been shredded to nothing. Lena was screaming over the radio, crying and laughing at the same time. "You did it! You actually did it!" Adrian tried to respond but couldn't find words. He just sat there, breathing, feeling his heart pound against his ribs. Finally, he climbed out. The front left tire was completely gone, just metal rim and shredded rubber. The crowd was going insane, a wall of sound that washed over him. Ellie broke through the barriers and ran toward him, Rosa chasing behind. Adrian caught her, lifted her up, and she wrapped her arms around his neck so tight he thought she might never let go. "I knew you'd win," she said. "I knew it." Adrian couldn't speak. He just held her. Lena appeared, mascara running, eyes red, grinning like she'd lost her mind. She grabbed Adrian and hugged him, Ellie still in his arms, and the three of them stood there in the middle of the track while the crowd roared. "4 in a row," Lena said, voice breaking. "Nobody's done that in 20 years. Adrian pulled back, looked at her. "We did that." "No, we," Adrian insisted. "This doesn't happen without you." Lena's face crumpled, and she started crying again. Adrian pulled her back into the hug, and they stood there together, soaked from the rain, exhausted beyond measure, happier than any of them could remember being. Damon Rourke climbed out of his car nearby, pulled off his helmet, and just stared. His team was talking to him, but he wasn't listening. He was watching Adrian, watching the celebration, watching something he didn't fully understand. Finally, Damon walked over. Adrian set Ellie down and turned to face him. Damon extended his hand. "That was the best race I've ever been part of." Adrian shook it. "You too. I thought I had you at the end." "You almost did." Damon glanced at the destroyed tire, then back at Adrian. You're either the bravest driver I've ever seen, or the craziest. Maybe both. Damon smiled, a real smile this time, not the mocking one Adrian had gotten used to. Yeah, maybe both. He paused. I underestimated you. I won't make that mistake again. Good. Damon nodded and walked off. Adrian watched him go, feeling something shift. Respect. Acceptance. The knowledge that he'd earned his place here, not through luck or miracles, but through sheer refusal to quit. Marcus Venn appeared next, finishing third. He clapped Adrian on the shoulder. You're going to win this championship, aren't you? Adrian blinked. What? The championship. You're going to win it. I'm still in third. Not after today. Check the standings. Adrian did. And Marcus was right. With 4 consecutive wins, Adrian had jumped to first place in the championship. By 6 points. He stared at the numbers, unable to process them. Don't look so shocked, Marcus said. You've earned it. Adrian looked at Lena, who was checking the same standings on her phone, eyes wide. We're leading, she whispered. Yeah, we are. Ellie tugged his sleeve. Does that mean you're winning? Right now, yeah. Are you going to keep winning? Adrian crouched down, looked her in the eyes. I'm going to try, kiddo. I'm going to try as hard as I can. That's all that matters, Ellie said, like it was the simplest truth in the world. And maybe it was. The podium ceremony felt surreal. Adrian stood on the top step for the 4th time, Marcus and Damon flanking him. The national anthem played. Champagne sprayed. The crowd chanted his name. But Adrian's mind was somewhere else. He was thinking about a year ago, sitting in a garage with nothing but a dream and a desperate need to prove he wasn't finished. He was thinking about every sleepless night, every setback, every moment he'd wanted to quit, but didn't. He was thinking about Ellie asking when he'd do something big again, and he realized he'd done it. Not just the racing, but everything that came with it. He'd built something from nothing. He'd found people who believed in him. He'd proven that hard work and stubbornness could overcome almost anything. After the ceremony, the media descended. But this time, the questions were different. Adrian, you're now leading the championship. How does that feel? Unreal. But we're not celebrating yet. There's still half a season left. 4 consecutive wins is historic. Do you think you can keep it going? 1 race at a time. That's all we can control. Your team is the smallest in the field. How do you compete with organizations 10 times your size? Adrian thought about that. We work harder. We care more. And we don't waste energy on things that don't matter. Every person on our team is there because they believe in what we're building. You can't buy that. What advice would you give to people facing impossible odds? Adrian paused. This question felt bigger than racing. Start, he said finally. Just start. It doesn't matter if you don't have the right tools or the right support or the right experience. If you wait for perfect conditions, you'll never do anything. Build something. Make mistakes. Learn. Keep going. And find people who'll fight alongside you because you can't do it alone. Nobody can. The reporter blinked, clearly not expecting that answer. That's powerful. It's just the truth. The next 2 races were brutal. Adrian finished second at both, Marcus winning one, Damon the other. The championship tightened. Adrian's lead shrank to 2 points. The pressure was immense. Every mistake mattered. Every decision carried weight. Adrian felt it in his shoulders, in his chest, in the way sleep became harder and harder to find. Lena noticed. She found him one night in the shop, staring at the car, lost in thought. You okay? She asked. Just thinking. About? Everything. The championship. What happens if we win? What happens if we don't? Lena sat down beside him. You scared? Terrified. Good. Means it matters. What if I let everyone down? You won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Lena turned to face him. Adrian, you've already won. Not the championship, though you might, but the thing that actually matters. You took your life when it was falling apart and built something beautiful. You gave your daughter something to be proud of. You showed people like me that we don't have to settle for jobs that don't value us. You proved that belief and hard work can beat money and connections. That sounds nice, but I'm not done. Lena's voice was firm. Whether you win the championship or finish 10th, you've already accomplished more than most people do in a lifetime. So stop putting all this pressure on yourself to be perfect. You're not perfect. None of us are. And that's what makes this real. Adrian looked at her, really looked, and saw something he'd been too scared to acknowledge. He saw someone who understood him completely, someone who'd fought beside him through everything, someone who made him better just by being there. "Lena, don't," she said softly. "Not yet. Win the championship first, then we'll figure out everything else." "What if I don't? Then we'll figure it out anyway." Adrian smiled. "You're pretty amazing. You know that?" "I know." He laughed, and some of the weight lifted. They sat there in the quiet shop, the midnight blue car gleaming under the lights, and let themselves breathe. The final race of the season was at Harmon, full circle, where it had all started. Adrian arrived with a 2-point lead over Marcus. If he finished ahead of Marcus, he'd win the championship. If Marcus finished ahead, Marcus would win. Damon was mathematically eliminated, but still dangerous. He wanted to end the season with a win, prove he was still the driver to beat. The paddock was electric. Cameras everywhere, reporters tripping over each other, fans lining every fence. This was the race everyone had been waiting for. Adrian walked through the paddock with Ellie, her hand in his, Mr. Flopsworth tucked under her other arm. She was quieter than usual. "You okay, kiddo?" Adrian asked. "I'm nervous." "Me too." "What if you don't win?" Adrian stopped, knelt down. "Then we go home, we keep building, and we try again next year." "But what if—" "Ellie, listen to me. Winning the championship would be incredible, but it's not the thing I'm most proud of." "What is?" "You. The way you've handled everything this year. The way you've stayed strong even when things were hard. That's what matters most to me." Ellie hugged him tight. "I'm proud of you too, Daddy." Adrian held her, feeling his chest tighten. Whatever happened today, he'd already won the only race that truly mattered. Qualifying was tense. Adrian put the car second on the grid, right behind Marcus. Damon was third. Perfect position for a final showdown. Race day dawned clear and bright. No rain, no excuses, just pure racing. Adrian suited up, climbed into the car, and took a breath. This was it. Everything he'd worked for came down to the next 2 hours. The lights came on, and the final race began. Marcus launched perfectly, holding the lead. Adrian tucked in behind him, saving his tires, waiting. Damon was right there too, aggressive, looking for any opening. The first 20 laps were a chess match. No one making mistakes, everyone calculating. Then on lap 25, Damon made his move. He passed Adrian on the inside of turn 6, clean and fast. Adrian didn't fight it, saving his energy for Marcus. But now Damon was between them, lap 30. Damon started pressuring Marcus, forcing him to defend, slowing them both down. Adrian stayed close, watching, waiting. Lap 40. Damon made a mistake, ran wide in turn 9. Adrian capitalized immediately, retaking second place. Now it was just him and Marcus again. Lap 50. Adrian closed the gap to half a second. Lap 60. 3/10. The crowd was on their feet. This was it. The championship would be decided in the next 10 laps. Lap 65. Adrian tried to move into the hairpin, but Marcus defended perfectly. Lap 67. He tried again at turn 11. Same result. Marcus was driving the race of his life, giving Adrian nothing. Lap 68. 2 laps to go. Adrian knew he had one chance left. One corner where he could realistically pass. Turn 9, the same place where he'd won his first race here. Final lap. Adrian closed right up to Marcus's gearbox through turns 1 to 8. Then turn 9 appeared ahead. Adrian went for it. He dove inside, later than he'd ever braked. The car sliding, tires screaming. Marcus defended, but Adrian was already there. They went through the corner side by side. Adrian pulled ahead by inches on the exit. First place. 2 corners left. Marcus tried to fight back, but Adrian held his ground. They crossed the finish line with Adrian half a car length ahead. He'd won. Not just the race, the championship. Adrian sat in the car, engine still running, unable to move. The magnitude of it hit him all at once. Championship winner. Him, Adrian Wolf, single dad. Self-built car. No sponsors a year ago. He'd done it. Lena was screaming over the radio, incoherent with joy. Eddie and Luis were jumping in the pit lane. Ellie was running toward him, Rosa struggling to keep up. Adrian climbed out, legs shaking, and Ellie crashed into him. He lifted her up, and she was crying and laughing at the same time. You won everything, Daddy. Everything. Adrian held her tight, tears streaming down his own face. We won, Elle. All of us. Lena appeared, and Adrian pulled her into the hug too. The three of them stood there, surrounded by chaos, holding on to each other. Marcus walked over, pulled off his helmet, and extended his hand. Congratulations, champion. Adrian shook it, barely able to speak. Thank you. For pushing me. For making me better. You earned every bit of this, Marcus said. Don't let anyone tell you different. The podium ceremony was a blur. Champagne, trophies, the national anthem. Adrian stood on the top step with the championship trophy in his hands, looking out at thousands of people cheering his name, but his eyes found Lena and Ellie in the crowd. And that's where they stayed. The celebration that night was small. Just their crew, a few friends, pizza and beer in the shop. No cameras, no media, just the people who'd been there from the beginning. Eddie raised his beer. To the craziest son of a gun I've ever met. Luis joined in. And the only guy who could make this work. Lena raised her glass. To proving everyone wrong. Adrian smiled. To building something real. They drank and talked and laughed until the early hours. Ellie fell asleep on a pile of shop rags, Mr. Flopsworth clutched in her arms. Eventually, everyone headed home. Adrian and Lena stayed behind, sitting on the tailgate of the truck, watching the sunrise through the shop doors. So what now? Lena asked. What do you mean? You're a champion. Teams are going to throw ridiculous money at you, offers you can't refuse. Adrian thought about it. I don't want to leave this. What we've built. Even if it means less money? Money's never been the point. Lena smiled. Good. Because I was hoping you'd say that. Why? Because I want to keep building with you, not as your engineer, as your partner, 50-50, equal say in everything. Adrian looked at her. You serious? Completely. We've proven we work well together. Let's make it official. What about the big teams? They'd hire you in a heartbeat now. I don't want the big teams. I want this. The freedom to build what we believe in. The chance to prove we can do it again. She paused. And I want to do it with you. Adrian felt something warm settle in his chest. Partners. Partners. They shook hands, then Lena laughed. That felt too formal. Yeah, it did. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the light spread across the shop floor. Can I ask you something? Adrian said. Always. That night you told me to win the championship first, then we'd figure everything else out. What did you mean? Lena turned to face him. I meant that I didn't want you distracted. Didn't want you making decisions about us while you were under that kind of pressure. And now? Now you're a champion. No more excuses. Adrian's heart was pounding. Lena! I care about you, Adrian. More than I probably should. And I think you feel the same way. I do. Good. So what do we do about it? Adrian thought about Ellie, about the team, about everything they'd built. We take it slow, figure it out as we go. No pressure, no expectations. Just like we've done everything else. Exactly. Lena smiled. I can work with that. She leaned against him, and he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. They sat there together, watching the sunrise, and let themselves imagine what came next. Not the next race or the next season, but the life they were building. One that wasn't perfect or easy, but was real and worth fighting for. Inside the shop, Ellie stirred, woke up, and wandered over. Are you guys dating now? She asked, rubbing her eyes. Adrian and Lena looked at each other, then laughed. Maybe, Adrian said. Would that be okay? Ellie thought about it very seriously. Yeah, Lena's cool. High praise, Lena said, grinning. Ellie climbed up between them on the tailgate. Can we get pancakes? Yeah, kiddo, we can get pancakes. The three of them sat there, watching the day begin, and Adrian felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not just happiness, but peace. The kind that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be, with exactly the people you're supposed to be with. He'd started this journey with nothing but a broken car and a desperate hope. And he'd ended it with a championship, a team, a future, and something that felt an awful lot like family. He'd proven that you don't need perfect conditions to build something beautiful. You just need to start. To keep going when it's hard. To find people who believe in you and fight for them as hard as they fight for you. And most importantly, he'd proven it to himself. Adrian Wolfe wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, struggled with doubt, carried scars from everything he'd lost. But he was resilient, stubborn, willing to build something from nothing and refused to quit until it worked. That was the real victory. Not the trophies or the championship points, but the knowledge that he could face impossible odds and come out the other side still standing. As the sun rose over the shop, painting everything in gold, Adrian pulled Ellie closer and squeezed Lena's hand. They had work to do, a new season to prepare for, a team to grow, a life to build. But right now, in this moment, they had everything they needed. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.